Thorin, we finally have, after a break of the LCK, we got the Telecom War, the most just hype matchup in history of Korean esports. And of course, this time it's more obvious than ever who's going to win.
Yeah, KT, right?
What are you saying? It's of course T1, they just went to MSI, they just went to EWC, they have all that international experience. And what did KT do during this time? They just stayed at home.
Yeah, but this is the most random matchup in League of Legends history.
Yeah, but we have to look at what the players represent, what they've showcased so far. KT, they're making switches in the bot lane. They have issues with their support, issues with their AD, and we're comparing that to FaZe and Keria. There's no way they're gonna win.
Yeah, but counterpoint, it's BDD. He can make magic happen.
But come on. BDD, it can only go so far. He still needs to have some teammates to back him. He needs some teammates to back him. I already mentioned the bot lane point. If owner plays remotely good at all, Cuz also has nothing to offer, BDD is not going to make it's not enough.
Doesn't matter. I can feel the change happening. The transformation has begun.
Thorin, what the hell are you talking about? Like this, just stop talking the nonsense.
It's roastering time! Whatever. Anyway, the point that, by the way, shout out to Morbius, the shittest movie of all time, but did yield that funny meme.
Jared Leto, Argo.
Yeah.
This is,
except, you know what? As a quick aside, actually, Yamato, I think actually that whole take comes from people being too young. Because look, I haven't seen a lot of his bad films. Like I don't watch films like Morbius. Obviously, do I, right? So I'm sure he has done some bad films. But what's weird is I don't know about you. I've seen Jared Leto in some really good films, though, bro. Like first of all, Requiem for a Dream. It was bad in that. It was pretty good in like Panic Room. There's a bunch of things. There's actually even one, by the way. I'll give people a random one. There's one you might not have even seen, but you might be into. There's one he did called something like The Outsider, where it's a fucking dope premise, bro. He's basically a guy he's like an American guy who goes to Japan and joins like the Yakuza. And I'm talking like the real Yakuza, bro, where when you like fail a mission, you all have to like chop a finger off or something like that. Bro, it's hardcore. It's like some Taxi Driver level, like,
okay.
Yeah, so that, even though I get that, like, look, he was in some shit films and definitely hams it up a bit. Like, I think that's one of those actors where I feel it's the piece you're in, Like, but I haven't watched that new He-Man movie, but I've heard he's good at Skeletor. It sounds like he fucking does a great job.
Oh, so damn.
Anyway,
He's Skeletor.
Yeah,
it's funny how, like, choosing movies is kind of like, choosing your teams, It's like, you can be a great actor, but then you can make choices like Rookie,
Yes.
Just be on shit movies all
the
time.
Like, totally. Rookie would just be the guy where he'd be like an amazing actor, but he just keeps choosing like mid-ass movies. It's like, how, because here's the problem, by the way. Sometimes amazing actors, there's even a good analogy, they're unbelievable in bad films, but the film's bad. And you just think, why'd you pick this though, bro? Like, come on, you're a legend. Couldn't you pick like a better director? Is this really the script you read and thought, I want to do this? But some people are like that. Anyway, on the topic of, we obviously today, people don't know, just had the telecom war. And it's actually even more ridiculous than I made out in the skit. Because, by the way, not only right now should T1 be favoured, but let's add in, right now, the biggest strength of T1 is their bot lane, right? If you don't know, guys, KT didn't play with some people thought, oh, they're getting like ghosting or something. No, they played with a guy called Fenrir. Now, what's mad about that is there's even actually a support player in Dota called Fenrir from years ago. But like, not this guy, just some fucking random ass guy, bro. Who even is this guy? And yes, they actually won the game. KT won 2-0. Wasn't even actually, the second game was pretty good, but like, wasn't even actually that like epic a series. KT's flat out won. Like, by the way, that wasn't even my angle as to why I predicted they could do it. The main reason I predicted it, bro, is because they had like 4-1 underdog odds. And I just thought to myself, if you actually want to do real analysis, look, if you have Cos and BDD, I think right now you have a chance against Owner and Faker. Like, those two players that can be pretty up and down are a bit sauce at the moment in the pit. What do you think about this result in general? Because for me, I have to say, I had actually, after the road times, I sort of written KT off. It was like, fair enough. They got the roster in a better place than right at the beginning of the year. It wasn't quite that bad. But at the same time, you're never going to do that run you did last year. There's no like, I don't even know if they go to Worlds, mate. It's debatable if they do right now. There's a lot of other teams getting better, right? So I am sort of low-key shocked by this result. I think it is kind of out of nowhere.
No, definitely. I think the main thing, right, is I think that KT, based on how they played last split, they were kind of capped out in terms of what their ceiling was due to aiming. It felt like the moment, they were viewed as a team that needs to be, respected, then all the respect just went out the window for them too, because people just came to the realization and you just needed to understand the beats in the game. And even though BDD played good, borderline great. He needs to play on an ungodly level to
Yes.
carry the team over the finish line. I think also effort as well. The honeymoon period kind of phased out. And the main thing that stood out for KT is that Perfect was playing well, and Kaz had the occasional good game, but he would make some mistakes in the mid to late game that kind of made it harder. And then to tie that together to this series, the craziest part about it was that T1 actually threw. Now we have seen this new trend in T1 where, in the past, it was always past 25 minutes, you would have players like Thorin and Faker, they would just connect into the game,
Yes.
regardless of what happened earlier in the game. And that was their biggest strength, that they would just be very sharp in terms of decision making, and they would be very careful with how they select fights. But now they look so damn desperate, because even in this game one, they had a solid like 5-6k gold advantage after KT took some fights that weren't working. And then it was just overextension after overextension, Dorn and Fake just dying on side over and over again, actually giving KT the comeback. Usually when it was the Telecom was, especially between these two kind of iterations of KT and T1 over the last couple of years, has always been KT the team to throw, if anything, if they couldn't push it over the finish line. And then to tie that into the second game too, it's like the moment we had that team fight where, once again, you can see that T1's trying to adapt to the meta.
Yeah.
Very invade heavy. They're trying to pretend to be BUG, where the support and the jungle is invading every jungle cap. Because even in that game, we had a 40 CS lead, but then there was once again an overextension, and then we just saw one of the most beautiful Yonuts we've seen in a long time.
It's really good, yeah.
And then we have a triple kill on BDD, and the rest is going to be history. I think fair play to KT, because if anything, I did think that Fenrir did a good job. The Edry performance, that's your opening game. That's like fantastic.
Yeah.
He was actually like pushing forward, looking for angles. I like that a lot. And then Kaz just had a fantastic series. And to look at it from T1's lens, the scary part about this is that Owner's form just seems to be getting worse. That he needs to be playing great for this team to work at all, because they don't have strong enough laners to actually compete and get into games. So Owner has such a big responsibility, and if junglers in Korea are out jungling him, it just becomes harder and harder internationally, because I do think that the LPL junglers, whoever they send, but outside of maybe Tilp Esports and Tian, are going to be like demonic and tough to beat. If WE make it, or Junja makes it, or Tarzan, like the junglers that are coming internationally are so damn difficult to overcome, and that's kind of further down the line, but it's still a scary thought when people think about T1. They think about how we're going to win worlds, and that's always the cope.
No, I mean, look, BDD being better than Faker isn't even something unusual. It's been the case for a few years now. But actually, I'm with you. I actually think it was like Owner's underperformance that was so whack. Here's what I think sucks if you've watched T1 at these recent international tournaments and in this game. One thing they seem to have lost, Jamal, I thought this happened against KC at EWC, is where's the control gone from T1? In this second game, by the way, it looked for most of the end part of the game like T1's going to win the game. Like they're getting slightly a little bit more in the fights. As usual, they're controlling the map, KT has to be careful where they step. So normally T1 is really good at when they have any edge or leverage over you. They don't abuse it. I've always thought the thing that T1's master flat is getting you to force the fight and engage into them, and then they pick the right angle and then just destroy you in a little quick skirmish, right? Not only at EWC did they mega greed against KC in that game where they were trying to go into towers and get almost some solo queue shit. But in this game here, bro, the most classic thing about T1 for a long time now is they're the best at doing the Barrett setups. They just got completely destroyed in that fight you're talking about. You're right, that triple was fucking insane, bro. That was some really KT actually played with crazy balls in this game. They were willing to just send it, mate. Because as you say, there's a bunch of times even before that. Anytime BDD thought he could get a crazy yawn pick, he was just firing the ult, bro. He wasn't saving it at all. So fair play. Fair play. One, I'm shocked T1's lost a bit of sort of the magic. I feel that's one of the things I always respected about them is anytime you're behind, you feel fuck, it's going to be hard to get back to this. But also, fair play to KT. They do understand you have to sort of send it a bit, mate. You can't play. I've always told you, my number one complaint of Korean teams is when you play too respectfully against the better team. Now you got to sort of just go for this is like swinging for the fences, mate. You just go for the knockout punch, the haymaker, innit? But tell you what, when it lands, it looks cool.
And it's also such a unique circumstance where we're in a situation where we can't say that these games, these best of threes, don't matter, because the points carry over, of course, from the previous one.
Yes.
And the seeding coming into it, it's obviously there's a high chance that the top four is going to remain the same for seeding purposes. But if for some reason, T1 have a very, very slow start, and they kind of fall down the point system. Coming in at a lower seed can be tough, especially
Definitely.
where there are teams with a low floor, but also a high upside. We look at KT, we look at D+. The qualification for the World Championship is very, very far ahead of us, but still is something to worth considering, because now these T1 issues have been there for so damn long. And if we're going to go deeper into a meta where it's all about leveraging counter picks in solo lanes and sending the champ that, for example, the enemy counters into a lane, into bot lane, then Pace is not the central focus. And if someone told me the Pace is the best performing ADC in the world right now, I'd be like, yeah, I think that's reasonable based on what we've seen. There's arguments for maybe Gumayushi or Viper, but he's definitely minimum top 3. And we are moving in a direction where the agency of ADs could be less and less. We saw even today where BUG tried to do the whole Yunara Lulu thing, and Viper had a miserable game. It's very, very hard to shoehorn that in and to force that in a meta that is so side lane heavy and solo lane centric because of what supports can do to impact those lanes. So we'll have to just monitor it very closely, because T1 is in desperate mode right now.
No, I would just say this to people. Watch Piers now, where he's playing unbelievable, but he just can't win the game because he's ADC. He can't 1v9 from minute 1 of the game. Think about last year, Viper in HLE. It's one of the reasons why I've always hated why the critique people often give when Upset has good seasons. It's like, well, where's the results? It's like, brother, ADC is not that role. Like, it's hard enough even in top lane. I think mid lane's one of the only roles you can really 1v9. I think BDD himself proves it, by the way, most of his career. I think even top lane needs a lot of help. You know, you need like the jungler to know what the fuck he's doing. Also, let's do the whole topic of the ADC, because if people don't know, the drama's actually crazy, which is it was actually announced that KT Rolster themselves basically said that the reason why they've brought up this Fenrir guy, they just say this: during practice, there was an internal conflict within the roster. As this had a negative impact on our team synergy, we made a team decision to make a roster change at the ADC position. KT Rolster would do our absolute best until the end of the season, so we ask for your support. So basically, that was just saying they're taking out aiming. By the way, they're just, even though they're doing it politely, you're just saying he was the problem. And the reason why that's interesting to me is this, Yamato. What people might not know about aiming, they know his style of play, but they don't know that actually he's someone. People don't know. Back in the day, he used to play for a Freak of Freaks. I think he even played in China before that, right? And he was actually someone, I remember when he played for a Freak of Freaks, he actually got like suspended at one point for, I think, being toxic or something, or saying something. I might have even said something fucked about women or something. He did something basically that was considered like he got suspended.
I remember. So basically, there was I think it was during the period where the president, I think that he I don't know.
I know what you mean. Is this the thing where there was like that ferry disaster, and he was one of the people who went on that website that was like 4chan? Are we thinking
pretty much?
Story?
Yeah, it was like very, very like alt-right 4chan adjacent, and he was there and doing like disparaging comments. About.
I think you're right. I think that's right. So basically, as in this scenario, what we're talking about, he actually lacked tact and didn't understand like professionalism, basically. Because what he essentially did was there'd been a national disaster, which is some like ferry had crashed and a lot of people had died or something. And at the time, there was a whole thing going on where people were like obviously supporting that issue, and on like the Korean equivalent of 4chan, basically. This is why we say it's like 4chan, because imagine the vibes on 4chan with anonymous. They were just doing that thing where people edge post, you know, they say crazy shit. So people were sort of like making fun of the fact that these people had died on the ferry. And I believe it just later came out that someone found that he had an account there or something, and he'd been one of the people, like, I don't know if he'd said it directly, but he was involved in it. Anyway, it was like a minor scandal. This is years ago now. But the point is, it was a minor scandal, and it basically affected his career, actually. Like, it was implied, like, not only did he get suspended, but that'll make teams think twice about you. So not only does he have the problems everyone knows in the game anyway, which is that he can be really good in regular season and in lane, but then you get him in the team fight, and even though he can carry some team fights, he also has to be one of the ADCs that's thrown the most team fights ever too. Like, he's a crazy coin flip in that sense. So his problem is that already exists, but then also I could unfortunately believe that, yeah, he could be, maybe he's a bit of an edgelord, or he's a bit of a dickhead to people, especially if obviously you're doing badly yourself. That's the time it's going to come out, isn't it? So all I'm saying is I actually don't think this sounds like it's out of left field, man. This actually seems like, unfortunately, this is some of the baggage that's followed this young man, and it's caused him issues now, because I've got to say, I always did think he was in most of these teams he's been on, like D plus and KT. We're not talking about he's on Gen G, bro. Like those are actually the sort of teams that are his level of play. But you can see this is why I always tell people in the industry, it's not usually your work, it's actually your baggage and outside of the server stuff that'll affect you the most. Like if people don't like you, if people don't want to work with you, if people don't believe in you, then they'll move on. Even if you're talented, because I'm with you. Like for a rookie performance, this guy they pulled out of nowhere did pretty well actually. Fair play. Like let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I like Fenrir. I like him. I think that in the end, looking ahead from the state they're in, eventually they're going to be like KT's season is going to end trying to be the fourth best team of the LCK, playing against either D plus or T1, something like this. And in that moment, do you want aiming on your side? Not really. That's not the player you want on your side. So on my end, I think this is for the long term good, especially with the level that Fenrir showed. I think he's good. And then the added layer, it's interesting because Ghost, if we think back to when he won the World Championship, the meta might just be perfect for the guy. In terms of being the person to just tank and play things that aren't ADCs. Like you don't get rewarded for being insanely mechanically talented right now on the ADC champions. Only in some rare spot do we get to see some insane Ezreal play or something like this. It's like now being a little bit of an outlier and being a little bit, having strengths that are different from your mechanical skill can actually favor you. And the Ghost moving back to ADC, I can definitely see a world where maybe he could find himself in this meta. It's like if he's coming into the game and he's playing Ziggs, Jhin, and Akasio and Asindra, I think that sounds like Ghost to me. So I think KT has a lot of good things going on for them with this change.
No, I looked it up. He's played 14 games as Ziggs. He's played, obviously, he was back during the old meta. So he also played, he's played Swain, he's played Victor, he's played fucking Sona. Yeah, this guy's done it. Seraphine. He's played a bunch of he had a couple of games of Casio. Through his career, he's definitely been willing to experiment. And obviously, he was around during the era when some of these things were played. No, I'm with you. Because here's the reason I think it could work, Yamato. It's because of his style of play. Like, he is one of those people who understands the weak side mindset, or I don't have to be the hard carrying. So I do think a lot of it at the moment in League, this is why all the ADCs are complaining. It's just that they want to play the picks and be the carry. It's just the usual solo queue thing. It's not that you can't play it. Like, I actually saw an interesting comment on this, right? Which is, Gumayushi complained about this meta and all the rest of it. Mate, Gumayushi is one of the most cynical drafters ever. Let me just remind you of the classics. This motherfucker was playing Ziggs every time it was up in the past. This motherfucker used to love those double hail of blade spot lanes with cheesy little shit. Mate, he's just saying that because I think he's worried right now of he might look bad on a certain mage. One thing I respect about Gumayushi is he does look like when he knows he's not going to chop, he doesn't play it. And then when he can get an edge on somebody, he gets it on anything. So I don't know about that Gumayushi, mate. Also, you're winning tournaments during this time period. Fucking pipe down. It's working for you. It's actually looking good right now. Actually, you can even argue in this meta, it actually neutralizes all the people we think are better than you, like Viper and Ruler, etc. Or not Viper, he's obviously probably the only one that isn't. Actually, Pays way better than you mechanically right now, mate. But I'll tell you what, he can't play half that shit. He can just play the odd thing, and he's stuck in a team where they all have problems. Oh, that reminds me, actually. Since you brought it up as well, people are forgetting that, because of the recent result of D+, all of a sudden, that legend group that T1 is in, that group, remember, is already Hanwha Life, Genji, T1, KT, and D+. Bro, that is going to be a bloodbath for that last place. If you're at T1, you're already tied with KT, those teams are going to be going hard. There's no easy games there. Even the games against D+ and KT are losable if you're T1 right now. You've just shown that much vulnerability. So I'm with you. Even though people might think, well, T1's fine, because they didn't win the internationals, but they were second in road to MSI and they were looking good last. But that doesn't matter right now, mate. These games right now, you don't get a break. You've got to just be good the whole way out. And so there's an absolute world where if they don't course correct, they could be in trouble to come fifth. And then here's the thing as well, Yamato. If they really have to beat 4 teams back to back, they're not winning the split at that point in time. You know what I mean? That's just too crazy. They can still obviously they're going to be in contention to make worlds, but even that's actually pressured in a way that it normally isn't the case most years. In theory, surely because of the AWC, we have to at least give D+ the chance they can be good.
There's also, on top of D+ and KT, it's I feel like a sleeping dragon is Nongshim. This roster is supposed to be good. Like,
It was, if anything, it was more weird. It was so bad when they made the Raw swap,
yes.
wasn't it? On paper, they should have good players. Yeah.
It's like Lehen's, Kingen, and now Diable as well. It's like
Yep.
they, on paper, have a really, really good roster. So it's like if these players begin to ramp up, and they could, players that once did a couple
And God
of
forbid
times they
Scout
did,
ever has a good series, mate. If that ever
Yeah.
happens, they're actually going to win. Yeah.
because they also get to go through that process of like their schedule is light.
Yep.
They get like easy matches, they can
Yep.
rack up wins, and that really does something to your psyche in a sense where, we remember the contrast of course, last year when Nongshim just was in the upper bracket and kept getting beaten and beaten and beaten. And Katie at the same time also got beaten. And in terms of how you manage that and how you navigate that, I think only a team led by like BDD could navigate getting beaten on a week-to-week basis like that. Coming from the position where you get to go through the motion of winning, and at the same time you get to practice against the best teams, because that's the crucial detail. There's no break in your schedules, because maybe 1 week you're going to be playing Genji and HLE, and suddenly
Yes.
half of the league's best practice for you is just cut off for maybe 2 weeks, depending on how you do the scheduling. So that can add up quickly, and Nongshim is definitely a potential contender. So the T1 situation definitely worth to monitor. On the talk of Gumayushi, like there's a part of me that understands where he's coming from, because I do think that in the end, players are players because they love the game in a lot of cases. That's how they become good. And there is a love to what you play, and I think there's a beauty in that. The job is very different than what you enjoy doing. And it's also in terms of what we enjoy watching. It's like our biggest issue sometimes with Fearless is that we don't get to see the beauty of, certain peak levels of performance on certain champions. That's like what we're missing out on now. So I can understand where Gumayushi is coming from, the complaints, but definitely, winning tournaments, you should be happy. You're on cloud nine. No, that not the team.
Of course, you win in tournaments, like you said. That was taken for granted. Yeah, exactly. We all understood the context. Don't worry about that. It's not 2013 now, bro.
Throw it in there,
Anyway. No, the other thing I'll say is this as well. By the way, I don't even disagree with him. I do think that actually ADC should be like a fairly limited amount of damage dealing champions that are about damage per second and not dumping about. Like, obviously, the dumbest thing is the idea to have majors. Like, one of the things I always thought was good about League of Legends was, remember, a lot of fans won't remember this, Yamato, but I'll bring it up now because you will. Right? We didn't used to call it mid lane. Now they call it bot lane and mid lane. It used to be called AD carry because you did attack damage, and it used to be called AP carry for mid lane because you did AP damage. And the whole point was the distinct difference in most cases was the AP mid laner usually actually just dumped all this damage instantly, like a massive bomb of like a Syndra type thing. You just do your combo, whereas the ADC is the one kiting around it, and it used to give this actual like nice balance to a team fight where you could see the strengths of each player. It was kind of cool. I'm with you. I agree with Guma in that sense. Like, I do like the game to be a little bit more streamlined. My problem is just this. I will never miss an opportunity to fuck with the needle people who do that to me stupidly. So if I ever bring up a thing that I have totally valid reasons for and similar explanations, like, it doesn't make the game as good, it actually limits greatness, you can't express yourself, I just get told all the same shit. And by the way, spoiler for ADC players, every other role does. So if top lane, when my beloved Flame can't play carries because you all have to play tanks and bruisers and you have to weak side and teleport and don't take ignite, if we complain and say, well, that takes away the beauty of top lane carry, you can't have agency in the server. They go, hey, stop complaining, man. A winner would adapt. And besides, there's more to the game than just that, And Riot shouldn't be telling you how to play the game. We should just be able to choose how to play the game. By the way, all that applies to ADC right now. Similarly, if you're a jungler and you're some stud like Tarzan, and then it's like, sorry, bro, tanks is in the meta now. You can't have any agency. You just go, hey, that's part of being a jungler. You better adapt. Get in solo queue, bro. Like, that's it for every fucking role. So if you're the ADCs, bro, if you ever said that, then suffer. Enjoy it. Learn Cassio, motherfucker. Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? You'd rather be playing fucking Ezreal. I know that. But you know what? You shouldn't have fucking talked shit, because, yeah, we'd have rather been playing fucking Shyvana top lane or fucking Diana or something. We were playing Dr. fucking Mundo, which, if you know anything about the game, Dr. Mundo's like, no, you don't play League of Legends. You just ruin other people's League of Legends game. That's not League of Legends, bro. That's just being an arsehole. Anyway, bring it all. Now then, In a second, though, we could have made this the intro, but a lot of it's not confirmed necessarily on our end. We don't know what to talk. So we're going to get into some drama, Yamato. So don't worry. I promise you all, we're going to be eating good, and you're going to be very satisfied. A bit like our upcoming sponsor, right?
Of course, Thorin, of course, is talking about Hugh. You know, I've been in situations where I have eaten like the worst thing possible just to sustain myself. Just throw anything together in the fridge, whatever you have, to make a cocktail of something that doesn't taste good, all for survival, as if I'm in an episode of The Walking Dead and I haven't eaten for 6 days.
Okay.
That imagery of forgetting to go to the shop because on Sundays it's closed in Germany for some goddamn reason. You know, if in that moment all I had, and I just had access to Huel, which I do now, God bless, you know, I can just I have one in the fridge, I have them outside of the fridge, you know, the whole package. I just know that I'm safe. I'm safe no matter what. And on first try, I think the biggest surprise is just the flavor. Is always when people tell you, it's like, in the bottle, have all the nutrients, you know, it's a complete meal, 27 nutrients, essential vitamins, no artificial sweeteners, colors or flavors. You of course have the 35 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, you know, for a very, very cheap price. And when people tell me, when you read that and all of those things are just crammed into a bottle, you expect the flavor to be mental. But then you dig in and you realize,
surprising,
oh,
actually,
this is nice. It fills you up. It's a whole meal. I have managed to go on my 10-hour streams, no problem at all with them. You also have, of course, access to the Black Edition powder. You can mix it with water, 40 grams of protein or milk, and in about 30 seconds, boom, you have a meal. So it's always good to have it, you know, in your cupboard as a backup whenever you need an extra meal. You don't want to cook or anything. It's like it just sustains you, because obviously our day-to-day life is just getting busier and busier. Our attention is always elsewhere. There's always something to do now. We have access to something. And if you need to always reserve a lot of time to cooking and dealing with all these problems on busy days, your nutrition is going to, of course, you know, fall on the wayside. So with Huel, you can always have a complete meal with you and always keep yourself ready. So with that, of course, being said, easy peasy, you can just jump into the Huel website, use our code, you know, make healthy eating very simple. Get Huel today with exclusive offer of 15% off online with our code LFN at huel.com/LFN. New customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting, of course, our show and fueling us. You know, sometimes we go on 5-hour episodes. Huel gets us through.
It's spelled, if you don't know, it's spelled Huel. Easy. Just go and check it out. Okay, but what I was referring to basically, and normally this would be the whole episode, but to be fair, we've only heard the initial information. And if you've learned anything from those T1 dramas for signing players, you always wait for the response and then the response to the response, because that's where it all comes out. If you don't know, one of the reasons why in esports I've often been able to get really far ahead of stories is either behind the scenes I had contacts like in Counter-Strike, for example, or in the case of someone like Richard Lewis. Richard Lewis is so thorough, mate. He doesn't publish unless he's already done all the due diligence. He's not doing the sheep esports like rumor thing going. No, his whole thing is he'll confirm it's real before he publishes it. Otherwise, it'd be a tweet, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be like a full write-up. So if you don't know, there's a mad drama going on in Korea right now, which hits all of our favorite fucking topics. So you ready? It's about T1. I'm in already. That's Days of Your Life. That's Euphoria. That's all the drama and the show. That's our favorite soap opera. So we've got T1. Get ready. It's our favorite character on T1, not Sydney Sweeney, but it's Joe Marsh. Exactly. Joe Marsh, just a big pair of... Oh, it's not Sydney Sweeney, my bad. Joe Marsh, he's available. He's there, of course, which if you don't know, by the way, I'll say this before we get into the drama. Already, if you don't know, they're not just because of the drama with Gumayushi and Zeus and all that. There already are some Korean fans don't like Joe Marsh. And I'll just be real. Some of it's not even just Joe Marsh. Some of it is just they don't like the idea a foreigner, an American at that, is coming in and telling like a legendary Korean org how to do things or making decisions. So unfortunately, and they're already sort of primed to dislike him, basically, if he does anything they don't like. But then also, because of those like dramas with the signings of the players, well, obviously, especially the Zeus one, Joe Marsh was found to have signaled things publicly that at least T1 claim later they didn't agree with. And some people even found insulting to maybe Zeus and his family, for example. Obviously, Guma had his own problem when they got benched. Remember, Guma, his parents' church got fucking doxxed or something. People were harassing that. So already there'd been a million things. Also, during MSI, people don't know, they sent the trucks to say Thorin out, etc. So he's always been in the crosshairs for Korean fans. But this one actually seems quite valid, Yamato. So Sports Seoul, which is actually a prominent South Korean daily sports and entertainment newspaper. It's not an esports paper. It's a sports paper that was founded in 1985. So it's a legit source, apparently. They basically have done a write-up where they claim that there's a conflict of interest between Joe Marsh and T1, because obviously on the one hand, he operates as CEO. Oh, no, they don't have a CEO at the moment, even though they've re-signed him. But obviously, he did do that role in the past. He was the figurehead, wasn't he? And basically, the T1 sponsorships, and let's be real, they're one of the most sponsored teams. In fact, that's even a detail I'll mention now that some fans are upset about. They blame some of the underperformance from T1 in certain tournaments on the fact that the players not only have to do all the playing, they have to do a lot of media appearances and commercials and, a lot of things like that. And obviously, in the off-season, they're always traveling and going to exhibitions. So that's already a hot-button issue. And basically, the problem here is the conflict of interest is, supposedly, the US agency, so again, not Korean, that handles most sponsorships of T1 is itself linked to Joe Marsh, but it's an agency that they're dealing with. If you don't know, by the way, I'll give you a quick example, Yamato. We deal with agencies. The way we actually get most of the ads on this show, it's not that Monty goes and calls up you or whoever it might be. Most of the time, what happens is those companies go to a prominent agency that does podcast marketing, for example, and we're already partnered with one of those agencies. And so what they do is when you go to the agency, you sort of say to them, hey, I want to spend this sort of budget and I want to be in these sorts of areas. And basically the agent then says, right, well, here's one of our clients that I think would be good for that. Or maybe you want to go a different direction and do this one. And we're one of the clients. What happens is, because we've done good numbers, if they want to be in, I'm going to guess, youth marketing area, places with disposable income, tech area, and they don't mind sports or esports, we're probably the first time that gets put forward. So then what happens is we get connected through the agency, and this is why I'm explaining it this way. Then we pay a fee to the agency, by the way. They get like a finder's fee for bringing the deal to us, and then we have the deal. But essentially, they're the middleman that connects us. Now, the obvious problem you can see here would be if all the sponsorships go through this agency that supposedly is linked to Joe Marsh, but he also works for T1, the conflict of interest there becomes, if he's influencing the agency, that's directly against the interests of T1. Because in this case, the agency wants to get as much percentage from you as possible, and they want to get more deals themselves for you because they're going to get more commission themselves from that, like I'm saying. But at the same time as T1, you actually ideally want to pay as little commission as possible. And who knows if all these deals make as much sense for you. But in this, the analogy here would be Joe Marsh is incentivized to sign almost any deal because he gets it's implied he might get an extra cut through that as well as he works for T1. So that's the conflict of interest. If indeed that's true, I'm being very careful how I phrase this. Like, this is just what the story says so far. And so there's an example here given where apparently there was a case where there was a sponsorship deal where T1 really received less than half of what a different, it says EU esports organization received from the same global company. So obviously the concern there is the idea that the agency's done a bad deal. But in this case, Joe Marsh would benefit either way as the premise, right? Maybe for T1 it wasn't such a great idea, but maybe he benefits through this agency. Again, by the way, I don't know if any of these things are true. And then people bring up that apparently last year, T1 players spent 102 days on sponsor-related activity. Now, that is insane, Yamato. Like, I'd be surprised if, Ronaldo spends that much, man. I would imagine he's more like, 1 day a week or something. Like, I doubt it's fucking 102. Like, he has to play all the games and be in the gym, so... Yeah, and then they also claim that basically T1 could have earned more in revenue from having fewer sponsors, but basically not using the agency. So again, we don't know anything about if the agency part's true, but what do you think about this drama? Because obviously it's a new reason why now people are sort of like, fuck T1. Obviously they want to get a different CEO, etc., which I think some of them did. What are your thoughts on this in general?
Just before I get into my opinion, just additional detail too in the report was just that internally, the people that were working on the brand deals and trying to get them, like basically the Korea-based team, that most of them have left the company, and even the deals, according to the report, the deals that they acquired themselves were still going through the agency. And just for contrast, like this situation reminded me so much of the whole Peter Zhang situation, where he was coaching on a team and working as their agent and had an incentive to sign the players. If people remember the whole story of like the Sword Art signing and a bunch of players that he brought in to TSM, he was at the same time their agent, which of course is a massive conflict of interest because you have a great incentive of hiring and working with people.
It was even
specifically.
implied in that particular case, which is different from this one, that maybe he was even being bribed by people to get to join T1, almost like TSM, almost like if you want to be in, you know, grease my palm sort of thing. That was even implied as like a part of the deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the whole issue always with conflict of interest. We have a history here in the League of Legends space of people not understanding conflicts of interest. But the
Yes.
whole problem with it is, of course, that the abuse can't be proven. So you just stay out of situations where this could be a problem. And that additional detail, the fact that still the partnerships that they found through. Of course, the through their own like partnership team, that they still went through the agency is very, very damning. If
that is really weird, I can
true.
tell you. Put it this way, Yamato, I also have had deals that I sometimes do through an agent because they just have better connections, for example, to betting sponsors, Yamato. But I can tell you, if I ever get a deal myself where the company contacts me and we agree terms, I don't then get that agent involved and go, right, here's your cut, mate, here's your 20%, right, get it. That's what I pay the 21st for. It's you to do all the negotiations. So you're right. That actually is I think the most damning part about this. Who can know on the rest of it, right? We have to trust sports soul. But if it's true that you already had a deal, but then you ran it through the agency, look, sure, there might be some like basic secretary type work of replying to emails that you don't want to do. But the idea you then pay a fee that's why it makes people worried that that's like Joe Marshall's essentially finding a way to sort of channel funds either to his own company or to himself. Who knows, you know?
And the fact that 75% of their staff on the brand management team has left the organization and have, according to the report, also leaked this information to, of course, the journalists is also the additional layer here that is damning, that they are explaining the problems and they are complaining about the problems, because obviously if you work in a company, that just means that your work is completely null. And an organization of T1 size, I can imagine that their brand management team is quite large and quite extensive, because obviously it's a big part of your business. And then the fact that they signed 16 major sponsors, and they are signing those sponsors at a lower rate. What comes out of that is still you have to make promises, and you of course put those obligations on the players, and that brings us back to that number, 102 days. In the same report, Sheepies was wrote, which of course we already know about, is like after Worlds, they won the World Championship, they had Red Bull League of its own, then they had to fly to Saudi Arabia, and they had to of course do their promotional event for their main sponsor, the Red Sea Global, that they have front and center. And then after that, they had a bunch of fan meets in different countries. There's so many times I see posts, it's like, oh, they're doing a fan meet here in Hong Kong, they're doing one in Singapore, they're doing one over here. It's like they are being dragged around, and they are clearly overworked. And I've made this point many times. It's like, yo, T1 do well at the World Championship because I think it's the calmest time of the year for them. And in comparison to everybody else, it's like everyone's dealing with the stress of like the logistical challenge of scrimming less, of traveling a lot, of doing all the media and all the videos and doing it in different circumstances. And T1 are just kings of dealing with all the bullshit, and they make it through, and they are already throughout the entire year having very limited scrims. We even had Keria say that they started practice very late coming into spring. Later than anybody else, which of course you think to yourself, what the hell? From that side, you recognize then that the competitive aspect is not the priority. And if I estimate how many days players don't scrim and don't just play competitive games, an overestimation probably for a team like T1 will probably be like 60 days a year. And then you have like the 300 days, you have scrims and you have games. 60 days is like a conservative number. And then if we are then in a position where 100 days you have media obligations, they're going to collide with scrim days then, and you're going to be in a situation where when do you get any time off? It just doesn't seem like they have any time off. And we've had many circumstances where basically talent, in this case, of course, T1 players. We've seen so many industry cases where you have figures being pushed to the absolute brink in terms of what they need to do. A common one, of course, with I'm from Sweden, so it's like the Avicii story, right? It's like of how he had 360 tour dates in a year, and somehow to cope with all of it, because obviously he wanted to do the shows good and so forth. He went into drug abuse. You know, it's like in terms of talent being just. Completely pushed to the point where it's dangerous. Like that's also another question in my mind. It's like, how burnt out are these players right now? Are they underperforming right now because they're just burnt out to a crisp? Could be the case. And with this reporting, I feel like I'm inclined to believe that's the case.
Especially because apparently Genji and Animal Life, they're like peers, but apparently just handle all the sponsorship in-house. So it makes it look like, why is there this thing involved? And then also another thing that was quite interesting in this article is apparently Comcast, which is the reason why Joe Marsh is involved, because they're the people who bought in. They actually only apparently own 34.3% of T1. So it's not actually like the Americans own the org and they get all the say. If anything, actually, the Koreans, the SK side of it, which is the telecom part, they're actually just letting them be the public face of it. By the way, I would imagine probably for global partnerships, Sarah, you know, that's actually a famous thing that sometimes they do. Apparently, back in the day, Chinese companies would even sometimes hire like a famous white guy as an executive, just so like when you went to the meeting, people didn't treat you like you were a Chinese company. You had the international flavor, as it were. So no, that's why I said as a preamble to set this up as well. Some of this does seem dodgy, but then some of it also seems like it's a perfect pretext if you already were like, one, I don't want non-Koreans in charge of T1, and two, I specifically hate Joel Marsh anyway. Because this also ties into the issue that since T1 claim they don't have a CEO now, but Joe Marsh's tenure as CEO should have run out apparently on March the 30th, but he's still around, and he's now done an extension which would end, supposedly his contract was supposed to have ended on the 30th of June. Well, the fact he's still there to most people implies they're just going to announce him as the CEO again, which apparently is clearly unpopular with the fans. It's actually why if you're Joe Marsh, you know what's funny? I don't particularly like him, as you've seen. Like, I just think he comes off as a clown with everything he says. I even think even though he tries to do it in like a jokey manner, like he tries to be like the friendly owner, you know, I think he often comes off as quite arrogant about things he doesn't know about, especially the history of certain things in Korean esports or esports in general. But here's the thing I do actually feel slightly sorry for. Also, even though he's mates with LS and he's lovely to LS, I have a pretty long track record of seeing LS pick the wrong people to be around, who I would just say are good at manipulating and be someone who can actually be coerced if people don't know. So I always just get a bit nervous about that. I'm always get ready to fucking attack and protect my LS if I need to. So there's always that. But I'll tell you the one thing I do feel sorry for him with, which is if every fan tells me like they do from T1, all that matters is worlds. Bro, you must love this CEO then. He gave you 3 worlds in a row. Like, you've won every world. By the way, it could have even been 4. You're in the 2022 final, one game from winning. Like, that's how I know none of you really believe it's just about worlds. What you really want is things like you want to be successful in every tournament. You want to beat Genji and LCK. You want to win MSI. You want to, by the way, be respected as the best org in the world and the best team. Like, that's how I know it. This isn't just like xenophobia or just hating foreigners. Some of it is also, I think they do feel like Joe Marsh is to blame for a lot of the weird things that have gone on in T1. I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry. I do actually think right now that the biggest blunder they ever made was they did load up the ZOFGK marketing angle really hard and then lost Z and G. Like, you did that to yourself, boys. Like, again, if you think of it as a K-pop group, yeah, it's going to be really unpopular if 2 of the more popular singers leave the group and some other person comes and joins you. Like that in a K-pop group, their fans would go even more mental, bro. Like, so I in a weird way, I actually feel a bit sorry for Joe Marsh. I actually think some of it's a bit harsh. What about you?
Damn. No, it's like we've always praised them for, you know, managing to keep Fake on the team. You know,
that's a big deal. Yeah.
That is the number one detail.
Also, seems like he's killed it with Faker's brand, by the way. Faker has giant endorsements, fucking things. He actually saw. They're putting him next to Ronaldo in the fucking EWC thing, mate. Like, they're giving him a big push. So on that one specifically, I think he's done a good job.
That could be maybe we are giving him too much credit there. That could be Faker's agent, you know.
Who knows?
I was just
maybe he's Faker's agent. We have to go deeper, Yamato. Maybe he's just everyone. Maybe everyone inside the T1 org. You pull off the mask. It's Joe Marsh again. What the fuck? Is there anyone even working in it? It's just him and ZO. It's just him and OFK or whatever.
I just, like I co-streamed this morning, right? The KTT one. I uploaded the video, and everyone, like even on this moment, like all the comments are only about how these players are disgraceful, the way they are playing,
Right.
whether it's
Okay.
Owner, Faker,
Okay.
Thorin. So it's like people obviously care. They
I
obviously
know. They
care
do. They
because
do.
it's like it would be so
I've always thought
easy.
such cope. The idea of all the fan bases, Jamal, that T1, it would be like if KC fans did it. If they were like, we don't really care about LEC. It's like, you live and die over every LEC result. You go mad.
Yeah.
Which, look, is why people like that you're a passionate fan base. But then don't cope like, I don't really care about Worlds. Bro, these guys lose their mind off like a Kesper Cop upset. You know what I mean? Like some shit that I don't even think matters. I don't even think EWC counts, bro. You know what I mean? Like, but they go mad if they lose these games, bro.
Especially in T1's case, right? It's so easy to rationalize them playing bad in summer splits.
Easy.
It's been the case for the last 3
Yeah.
years.
But I always say this. I actually do just think Faker has some sort of hand issue, bro. And I think in summer it's logical. That's when it all gets to him. That's when he's played like 5 straight months of League of Legends. And if you notice, when he gets that little break before Worlds, magically his hand regenerates, doesn't it? Like it just happens every year. So I'm with you. Summer's the most obvious time for T1 of the downfall. Just is.
Yeah. Wow. And I remember the whole press. Like I remember like the moment where like we got that camera moment where Faker like broke. Obviously, it's like the pressure got to him during game. And it's like that was during the period where Faker had to also deal with the Hall of Legends, and he had like all the press and all. And now the Hall of Legends thing has been quite silent because maybe they just have approached it very, very different. Obviously, it's like Faker has a different stature in comparison to anyone in League of Legends. So obviously they marketed that very, very heavily. But once again, it came at the cost of course, Faker. And Faker is doing so much. Apparently, he's an honorary police officer. Like if you walk in I don't know when was the last time you were in Korea, Thorin?
Oh, it was years ago now, like 10 years
Bro,
ago.
like you see Faker's on every billboard, by the
way.
Like he's everywhere. Like it's mental. Like he's like the face of like the like one of the biggest Korean crypto exchange. He's like on the face of every menu food item, whether it's noodles or a drink or like fried chicken at the 7-Eleven store, CU, whatever it was called. Like he's just everywhere. This guy is absolutely everywhere. In regards to his wrist issues, I remember that moment, like T1 made the statement that Faker had corona and he couldn't attend these moments. I think if he just pretended to be sick for a month, God bless him, he deserves it, bro. Like this guy is completely overworked. He's just been carrying so much of just this league esports, and also like what of course T1 need for such a long time. So it's like the underperformances, they all kind of click together and they make sense. They 100% make sense. It just makes you wonder, what would happen in a world where the ZOFGK roster was on, let's say, HLE? Would they just win every LCK split?
Interesting, right?
Would that be the case? Would they just win every LCK split? Because obviously it's like How Alive Group is like all the money is internal. Like they don't need to do big brand deals. It's like they do partnerships that are fundamentally good for them. That makes sense, but they get their money internally. So it's a very different revenue model than of course T1. And it was interesting because
wasn't it already implied that Gen G does that? Didn't Arnold say something like Chovy doesn't want to do as much like media stuff, so he sort of, just because he's Chovy, just lets him sort of chill a bit more. And I think he's more of like a limited amount of stuff, because it's implied that's one of those teams that wants to just grind the game. It doesn't want to be doing too much distracting stuff, right?
Yeah, and I just think back to the whole when everyone was saying it's like, how on earth, why is Zeus leaving T1? This could be the reason. This could be a very easy. Zeus doesn't strike me as a person.
I'll even give you an angle. Here's what's funny. People, sometimes they do it like in a derogatory fashion. I do when I say they did it this way, but some people mean it as a compliment, that one of the successes of T1 in this era isn't just winning worlds. It's the idea that they've marketed the players properly. They've become a global brand. Remember, back in the day, it was like, I always find one of the most jarring things to me is, even though League of Legends viewership is down in the West, you look and then LCK is better than ever. And you think, bro, back in the day, it used to be a niche thing to watch Monty and Dora and to stay up and watch the VODs. That's why everyone was in the OGN Legion, and then you'd have all the like people who only watch like LCS, for example. They'd be like, "Stop being a Korean dick sucker, support Americans," you know. And then that was like now everyone watches LCK, mate. It's the most viewed league, and T1 always has the #1 viewership of all the tournaments they're in. All the LCK matches is all there, like Gen G match, KT match. Like they are the #1. Like in that sense, the T1's killed it because they've not only gotten the worlds, but they market like motherfuckers. But yeah, part of the problem is often people say like the ZOFGK angle, you're marketing them like K-pop idols. Now, here's what people might not know, Yamato, I'm sure you do, is in K-pop, even though K-pop also has become a global phenomenon. I mean, one thing that's crazy, mate, in the Netherlands where I live, they have a shop that like sells Korean and Japanese stuff, and people go to it and pay to have them heat up some like basic bitch nongshim ramen in a cup in a microwave and you eat it in there, so you feel like, oh, it's like I'm in Korea or Japan. And I always wanted to tell them, but like, not I would, if I had Hugh with me, I'd go drink this. It's a complete meal. That has better nutritional value. No, but the joke I always want to tell them is, you know, that's like the cheapest food in the entire world, bro. Like you can also just cook it at home in a pan. Like you're doing that for the vibe of like everyone's into K-pop. They want to feel like they're part of Korean culture, even if in this case they're in the bloody Netherlands and you're just in a shop. So what's mad is the success of K-pop is brilliant, but I don't know if you know this. The actual lives of K-pop performers are fucking really dark, Yamato. Like people often literally compare them to like slaves, literally. Like they say, because apparently even some of the really big ones actually don't make as much money as you think. They're not on some like Taylor Swift money, mate. I've heard they're on like salaries comparable to what me and you make. Like maybe like, you know, I won't say the number, but like you can imagine the sort of range I'm talking, like a mid-level EU LCS pro, basically. They're on that sort of salary, but the difference is like this. They have to work, I've heard, like 300 plus days a year, like some crazy amount where, and again, it's work. Like if you're not doing the singing and the concert and in the studio, you're literally just doing a media after appearance after media after appearance after fan meet after media appearance after fan club. Remember, they also told that, remember that they did that as well. They did the T1 fan club thing where you pay extra to contact them and message them on an app and shit. Like, I think that's the downside of the K-pop angle. So if you notice, one thing I'm actually vaguely proud of the T1 fans for in this case is, in K-pop, they don't really give a shit about that, mate. They just care about the idols and they just like that they're being supplied with them. And no one really cares about the dark side, how they're being exploited. Fair play to T1 fans that they actually do care about these players as more than just people in the server and faces on a billboard. They actually care about their health and is this affecting them mentally, you know? Because I'm with you. The most interesting thing that I think will be in a couple of years, if someone like Zeus or Gumayushi ever does an interview and they're like, well, one reason I left actually was I wanted to just play the game again and not have to be like a celebrity and do all these extra things. And it was just taking a lot from me. Because actually, I think someone said this in the Reddit thread, but it makes sense. They, like you say about them winning Worlds, they say actually Worlds is the only month where they don't do any of this shit because they're just at the World Championship for the whole month, aren't they, with not as many games. So in that scenario, it's your one break. It's where you get to just be a normal team again and just play the game. Whereas aside from that, you're basically spending like half your time being a public figure brand celebrity, and then half your time trying to be the best in the world at a game where everyone else is practicing all the time when you're on the photo shoot. I can imagine the stress. So that must be crazy, bro.
Yeah, 100%. It's like if there was always like the contrast, right? You know, LPL has its issues, but the one thing that sometimes stood out of Korea is the abusive nature of contracts, depending on the position. Because a lot of the K-pop stars, right, they get groomed from a very young age. They get signed on the contract, and they basically think in their mind that they made you. And in terms of like there's like these legal battles where you have like big groups trying to break away from their agencies. Like I remember there was this New Jeans that tried to break away from their agency, citing like abuse and like the fact that they are completely mistreated. And in the end, I don't remember what the conclusion was, but the conclusion was like the end step was that the court sided with the agency in the end. And in terms of like abusing talent, I guess that's a common thing. Like we've heard that story many times. So I'm just reinforcing that angle. And from T1 side, it's I just hope it doesn't lead to, you know, we know the risk issues of Faker, but were there moments where like he was pushed to the brink due to just being overworked? And that's something that you know, T1 and this version of T1 explicitly pushed, because for me that's always concerning. Like I've heard horror stories and know of horror stories where like players had an injury and then they basically were told by a doctor to not play, so they're not allowed to play. But they then shop around for doctors that are eventually going to sign off on this person playing just because they care about the team and care about the result. And that's the level we operate sometimes under, where the health and the longevity of players is the last concern. I've heard these stories a couple of times, but they're not my stories to say, so I can't slap names on them. I hope it comes out one day, because these organizations and GMs are still actively working.
Oh, for sure. And also, I will say that is the number one problem. But it is sweet. It's actually one that I'll give you a quick extra detail about the industry if people don't know they're only from League of Legends. I can tell you this is one of the reasons why, you know, that title of like biggest streamer in the world in esports, you know, it never lasts more than like 2 or 3 years max. So think about it, right? If you go back in time, first of all, it actually used to be the League of Legends people. It was people like Hotshot GG back in the day. And then you'd have people like Tyler One, obviously fucking XQC, Shroud, Ninja, depending on what year we're going. If you notice, most people only ever have 2 or 3 years where they have that title. And then even if they stick around, they're like third or fourth. And sometimes they go way down and they just stop being a big streamer. I can tell you this is one of the reasons why. It's not just the pressure of doing the streaming. It's that when you do 1 million brand deals, bro, that drains you. That gets you after a while. And eventually, once you've made millions and millions, if you really are some of these guys who actually weren't idiots and they didn't spend all the money, some of them live in mega mansions and have fuck tons of crypto and investments and companies they work with. Some of those guys, eventually after a few years, you know what, guys, I've sort of done the like pushing myself to the limits, but let's rein it back in a little bit. Let's have a reasonable schedule where I get a day off each week, or maybe I mean, I've already got enough brand deals. Maybe I don't need a special watch deal as well. And then a motherboard. I've already got enough partners to work with now. And I can tell you that like being in that world, it's why when big streamers do that thing where they complain, like, it's really hard to be a streamer and all the fans go, no, you just play games for a living. They don't. They do way more than that. I mean, even when they play games, remember, they have to be on. They have to be entertaining all the time. You can't just be boring. Otherwise, just playing the game isn't enough. So I actually, this is one of the areas where, take Joe Marsh off it, just the T1 players, I have bad sympathy for them. I think they're actually trapped in a really difficult situation. And also, I'll tell you why theirs is even darker, Yamato, because some of them, especially Faker, bro, he doesn't have that many years left. And I know fans are going to say things like, yeah, but Faker could get any job he wants. Who knows that? That's not always true, mate. Like, there are some really, really, wouldn't we have all said that about all of our favourites in League? Like, mate, how's Expected not got a job in the industry? Froggen's trying to become an air traffic controller, for fuck's sake. Like, all these people, you would have thought if it was easy, they'd just be, they'd be a head person at G2 or they'd be the LEC commissioner. None of them have esports jobs, bro. They all tapped out. So it's actually not guaranteed. If you're someone like Faker, I'm going to go ahead and guess you probably quit school pretty early. I think you were like 17 when you were a pro or something. Like, you probably didn't go hard at that shit. So this is like the main part of your life where you're going to make money. And you have to do all these appointments now because in 2 years, maybe you're retired, maybe you're the coach. A lot of things can change. So I also think if you're a pro, it's like being a sports star. The second you get injured or you get too old, it's out. It's over. Like, there's some really sad stories in sports, I can tell you, bro, where like some legendary football player, you can go and meet him. He works as a garage around the corner from where you used to play football. Like, that's dark because you're like, bro, you're just a normal person again. Like, we all thought you'd be up here on Mount Olympus with millions of dollars for all your life, but sometimes reality kicks in and eventually it just goes away. That moment to make all the money goes away. And so the pressure when you're in that moment is drain every dollar you can from the industry. And then, it's almost like the dream of retiring. You'll get your time away in a few years but who knows at this point in time. And even if they say that as an idea conceptually, to do it each day is still really hard. Like, I can tell you, one of the reasons I have a much happier life now is when I used to do CS events, I had a really hard time saying no to them because where I come from, the kind of money they were paying per day is what my family used to make in a whole month, bro. So I used to think, oh, how can I say no to this? Like 2 years ago, I'd snapped the hand off, and in 5 years, maybe I still would. So I did way too many events, and I remember thinking the same thing. I would get to the end of the year, I'd have loads of fucking money, and I'd go, but wait a minute, I didn't have any time off in the year. Like, I never got to actually enjoy the money. It's just money in an account. And then I was just working every bloody day. And to find that balance is almost impossible because actually, if you take a step back, the fear is then someone else steps into your place and they take all the deals and then they take over. And it was like you didn't strike while the iron's hot. So no, by the way, as I say it, we're just teasing this story for now. I think this story will only get sexy in the future if there's some response to it or further information comes out. By the way, also, if it's all true, that should happen. So I would say we're more almost teasing this. We will in the future address it on some of the insight, but if anything happens with this is more like the Four Horsemen topic for me, Richard and Monty, like I would say that's the area where this will probably be unpacked one day if there's some spicy angle, not least because spoiler, anyone who's watched some of the insight knows. Monty also likes to clown on Joe Marsh. It's just, it's another one of his favorite targets. Then again, the guy makes it easy, doesn't he? He's also got that. Let's be real. The last thing I'll say about Joe Marsh is this. He's also got that exact type of like American arrogance that if you're not American is just really easy to hate on. We've all been hit on it since the 80s, bro. You know, they're like, so, hey, we're the best because we're American. Everyone loves to hate on that, bro. Even if we all the joke is we all actually like Americans generally. Even we even like some of those people, but there's a reason why that vibe always rubs certain people the wrong way, doesn't it, mate? We always say, fuck off, mate. Fuck off, Yank. That's what we do. Okay. Right, we will now move on because I actually think this is an episode where LCK has only just begun again. Kesper Cup's a joke, by the way. I can tell you that was a nightmare because in the first week, they all filled in randy ass rosters. Then, literally, right before the game, like Hanwha Life and Genjita were just putting the real players in, but you had nowhere to know that. So that's a stupid competition. I don't give a fuck about that one. LPL, we could talk about later. They've barely got going. I think we do a bit of West for this one. We don't often give it as much attention. So I have got a poly market for you to get into the LEC discussion, which is, as of the time of recording, in 2 days, so it'll be on Friday, we have MCOY plays against Shifters. Now, what's funny is this, Yamato. On the poly market, you'd think this was the craziest mismatch ever. It's MCOY's at 88%, Shifters is all the way down at 14%. Like, then this has been out for like a few days now. So you would think like, oh, there's just no chance at all that there's ever going to be a Shifters victory. But I want to remind people of 2 details here. One, MCOY's just looked really bad the last month or so. They looked even sus, I thought, in that opening against G2, even though G2 won it. Let's be real, G2 know themselves and they're memeing it in the interviews. They know they're in a tough spot. They know perks and stuff. I don't think that was like a cocky win. I think they barely scraped the home, but I think both teams played bad. And then let's add in, a lot of people are going to be super down on Shifters, who I will point out, by the way, haven't played yet. They didn't play in that first week because they weren't that like homestand or whatever. And also, people are going to forget, Shifters brought in 2 players now. They brought in Shio and Stend, who were both formerly of Heretics, right? That's a really interesting mix. By the way, that means, again, they're a majority French team now. Now, the reason why I think that's kind of cool is I think the Shio guy was mad slept on, man. I look back on BDS, and even I spent too much time talking about Adam and Crowdy and Nuke. Like, this guy was like the heart of the team. He really did have a lot of the strength. Him and Labrov were like underrated in that team. And the Stend guy, at least last year in Heretics, was showing sometimes some flair. You know, he looked like he had some good game. Also, he's partnered with another French player. What do you think of? Because I've got to say, specifically for this match, I think I might get cheeky and take the fucking Shifters flyer here, mate. If they're all the way down at that percentage, I think there's a chance they can win this. I think MCOY is sort of ripe for the taking right now. Thoughts?
I think that is, in regards to what BDS's position has been in, I do feel like there is a chance of a potential honeymoon here brewing. I do think that Shio and Stend at the peak of this version of Team Heretics, I do think it was always spearheaded by that partnership between Stend and Shio.
Yes.
And I do think that BDS now have made upgrades in the departments where they were weakest. I do think that Bukada and Trimby couldn't get the ball rolling. Trimby was very inconsistent and was flailing about often in terms of the angles that he looked for, and played a very lonely game. And Bukada just mechanically couldn't keep up with any of the beats in the game and didn't have a presence. Like, Bukada is one of those junglers that I never felt really belonged in the league, really. And BDS have made upgrades in those departments. I think that, sure, in a world where there's competition in the mid lane. There's definitely better mid laners in the LEC than Nuke, but he's always been like a mid-table player. And if anything, Rooster is just looking better and better. So this time around, I keep calling them BDS because Shifters is such a strange name. It's hard.
Let's still spiritually BDS. Let's be real. As long as Strikers there, Nuke's there, they're BDS, aren't they? Come on. I'm bringing Chio back to make some BDS again in it. Come on, it's just BDS in it. I know.
And on top of that, it's not only that the changes for BDS are exciting, it's just that MCOY is also looking as weak as possible. They just lost against the Vitality that looked terrible on the weekend. And MCOY is now, if you're in a situation where you are falling for the same traps, for the same mistakes, and you're losing the games the same way over and over again, in order for you to find a new peak again, you need to break down everything that you're doing. And before it gets better, it needs to get worse in most cases. And I think that MCOY still, I do think that they are individually better. And if I gun to my head, I had to predict someone. But
they should win. They are the favorite.
Yeah, it's just that there's definitely a chance for BDS take a victory here for sure. It's just a question of what did they do in their off time, because that's a tricky thing to navigate. They're going to have to unrust while all the teams that were on the roadshow might come from a position where they are more tired and something like this. But in the end, I do think that having played matches helps a great deal. While BDS, when was the last time we saw them? 3 months ago. It's ages ago we saw them play.
Yes.
So it's hard for me to imagine that they're going to hit the ground running instantly. But I'm definitely more excited about this BDS than the previous one.
And also, it depends, as you say, if they get the honeymoon effect. Sometimes the honeymoon effect actually means the first games are the best ones. Actually, you get like a month or so where things just work awesome, and then it goes to shit right after that. I think you could even argue that bizarrely happened where, even though on paper we all thought that actually like Nongshim won that deal to get Diablo, actually it was FearX that was better initially with the fucking Tangu or whatever the guy's name is instead of, and it was actually Nongshim was fucking shit for a while, weren't they? Like that was kind of sus. Like it went the other way around. He even did that banter, didn't he? Where he had the jersey, whatever the fuck it was. Like that was kind of dope. It was horrifying.
Yeah, it was
cool,
sick.
actually. Yeah, fair play to him. No, so I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm quite sure with this game. I just think there's some mad value on the shifters side of this. Okay, let's move on. Oh, also, by the way, I won't make this explicit, but you know what? Actually, I have a theory. I also think one of the reasons why they rebranded, by the way, from BDS. That wasn't even like the fucking short version. That was the name of the team. If people don't know, I genuinely think that's because of geopolitics, Yamato. Like, I don't know if you know this, but if you do, I'll tell you how to Google it and you can quickly find out what I mean. Type in BDS and then put in the name of a certain country that you think is being harassed by another country in the Middle East right now. Put in the name of that country in BDS and look up what it finds. BDS stood for basically a global movement against a certain Middle Eastern country that they think like where you're supposed to like boycott them and do all crazy shit, which in America is a big deal.
Say it on the show. Why?
I'm just trying not to in general because I try not to make the show political like that. But anyway, the point is, because who knows if sponsors like it or not. But the point here is this: that is actually a pretty edgy thing to have your name be associated with. If someone just goes to Google and types in BDS and presses enter, like again, if you're an esports org, you want it to be really neutral. You want it to be filled with things you do in the game. You don't want it to be connected to that. But it's where my analogy here would be. It would be like if I was an esports guy and I was called like Alfie, and I made some cool team. It was called Alfie's, Federal Division, short AFD. Yeah, you know what? Eventually a sponsor might go, can you just change your fucking alias? Because when someone Googles AFD, that's not what they find. They find it a political movement that maybe I don't want to sponsor. So I'm just putting out there. I actually wonder if that's also why they changed. With that said, I'm with you. Shifters is a fucking shit name. Shifters sounds like the name of like a sci-fi TV show. Like what is that?
It's just also too easy to meme because you know the story, right, of like what was the actual reason that they said publicly.
No.
Because apparently like BDS is the what it's called, the initials of the guy who made the team.
Okay.
And he did he basically was did like comments about, I think it was like a lady that it was a comment in regards to like anti-abortion. Basically
okay.
saying,
You got involved in some shit. That's okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So it's like and of course it's
they just want to distance themselves from that, basically.
Yeah. And he done goofed, okay. I have the comment right here because it's like it's a fucked up way to put it.
Let me see. Okay.
That is like, yo, what are we saying, bro?
Here's the problem with that, mate. Listen, this is why I don't want to get into politics. I think that's a bit based. The problem is, how are you going to then represent a giant international global brand and have all women be involved in marketing, etc.? Yeah. The problem there is this, Yamato. If that's just you, a random person on the internet, you can give that opinion. The issue is, if you're going to try and be a head of a company where I assume you want like Coca-Cola to sponsor you, they're going to say, don't ever say any shit like that. Get away from that. Don't even ever address that topic. Like that. You're right, especially if it's the leader of the whole org. That's the problem there. Because the problem, this is why I always say to people, you've got to understand the difference between, do you have a personal Twitter account or is it a company account? Like when I tweet as Thorin, on some level it represents LFM, but it's also just Thorin's opinion. Like Monty didn't agree with my opinion or whatever. Problem is, if I was actually like CEO LFM, like representing public, then that would be treated that way. I'm sorry, that is how people would take it. Anyway, let's talk about some other things in LEC. So I'll tell you what's insane, Yamato. The amount of drama we could have done the skit about this week is mental. Because, bro, we have to talk about this fucking vitality thing further, right? I'll tell you one thing we didn't go in on enough last episode, right? I think there's two separate issues here. There's the Fiesta guy coming in, and should they have done that move? It looks like it's a bad move so far. Put that to one side a second. I'll tell you what, I know he was your boy back in Fnatic, mate, but I've got to say, I'm genuinely thinking about doing a video about Humanoid. first of all, it's a mystery to a lot of public people and even people who worked with him. He's a very unusual character. A lot of people can't get a read on him. I'm amazed how many teammates tell me things like, actually, I don't really know whether he was trolling or if he was serious sometimes, or did he care, or was he like playing it cool? And, you know, a lot of them find him like really mysterious. But also, I've got to say, these last 2 years leave a really bad taste in my mouth, bro, because this is twice now where it's implied that he sort of quit on his team before the summer split. Before the split that gets you the Worlds. Like, it happened last year in Fnatic. Like, if you can't read between the lines on that one, it was implied you just didn't care. That's why they brought in Poppy. Now, I'm sorry, I don't actually believe then, Yamato, that they like benched him. That sounds to me like they just had a frank conversation. Like, look, do you really just not give a fuck? And if he was sort of like, yeah, they were like, okay, then fuck it, we'll bench you. We'll bring this other guy in and he'll try for that split. They've now, the reason I think it's even more egregious now, look, I thought that was pretty bad because he had a massive contract in Fnatic and he was in the team a long time. But this one's even worse because if you were Vitality, think about the conversation we had in the off-season. It was like, actually, these are exactly the sort of teams should gamble on Humanoid. What if he's good again? What if actually he has something left in the tank? What if it was the Fnatic curse, you know? What if he gets out and he goes and now Vitality can be a contender? Now they can go to Worlds. Well, that's fucked now. Like, they have to bring in a random Korean too. Like, I don't know where you're going to come down this. But if I was these two orgs or just a hater of Humanoid, I'd feel like, fuck this guy. Like, what's he doing? He's playing God with people's whole year. Like, if I'm the GM of these teams, by the way, I now regret gambling on Humanoid. Like, he sort of screwed me over because I'm sorry, I don't know about you. I can say in my life, Yamato, if I ever sign a contract to do something, I will do that unless I am dead. Unless I physically can't get to work and do that job. If I make a deal with you and you pay me hundreds of thousands of euros and I say I'll play for you for 1 year, 2 years, then I'm going to play those matches, mate. If you bench me, that's one thing. I can't control that. But if I can turn up to work and I can do my job, I've agreed that. In my opinion, there's a saying that we have in England, like, you're only as good as your word. Like, your word has to mean something because that represents you as a person. If this is true that he's just bailing on these teams, I find that really fucked up, bro. Thoughts?
Yeah, my read on Humanoid is I think honestly his biggest struggle, like his biggest blessing and curse is just that still to this day I think he's one of the most talented League of Legends players that I've ever gotten to work with. But I think that, you know, in comparison to, for example, Caps, who genuinely seems to love the game, I think Humanoid just hates the game. And I think that the further distance he sees in his mind from his team actually succeeding, the further that distance is, the less motivated he's going to be, because every day is just like some form of suffering for the guy. Because he just doesn't, for me, it just seems like he doesn't enjoy a league. There were periods where he did, because of the meta or certain champions, something was new and it was exciting in some shape or form. But I think that Humanoid generally thinks that the game sucks. I think he generally thinks that the game sucks. He hates playing the game, and has latched onto it because obviously it's like he found a way to, you know, make money, to, of course, have success and to, you know, achieve certain things. Because for Humanoid, he told me, you know, the main thing that he likes League is about playing like in arenas. And I think that if in his mind he can't get to that point, I think it's very, very hard to get him to be motivated. Things around you need to be strong enough to withstand those moments of demotivation, and also like his general demeanor in practice that can definitely like weigh on other teammates as you go through that process. Like, for example, in Fnatic 2022, it was very hard for Hilly and very hard for Razork because they are very like up and down as players in terms of how they scrim and so forth. And Humanoid would like show in ways in game that he would kind of like give up on them almost. And I think like if I compare that to, let's say, an Elioya that like wants to win at no cost, no matter what the cost.
Yeah.
Like he would get you to that point where Humanoid is going to deliver, because in the end, it's like when Humanoid was at Worlds 2022, he was performing insane. But if you struggle to get there in the first place, Humanoid can be very destructive to a team environment. And when it comes to these two circumstances, why I have no sympathy for both Fnatic and Vitality in this case is the fact that they both knew exactly the type of player and person Humanoid is and what he needs to actually thrive. Because the Vitality coaching staff is the one that he won with.
The Mad Lions ones,
Yeah,
yeah,
when they
yeah,
won
yeah.
Mad Lions.
Yeah.
So they knew exactly what they were dealing with, and Fnatic did too, because obviously Fnatic stayed with Humanoid for a very, very long time. And they could have ripped the band-aid way earlier and
Oh, yeah.
recognized and saw the spelling on the wall, because I'm very certain that what they saw when they made the switch to Poby was nothing new. It was nothing new at all. And I think that what has happened with Vitality, I think the same thing from Pad's side and Mac's side as well. I can't believe a world where they saw something new here with Humanoid. Because when you get a certain player, especially when you get someone
Okay.
that you work with in the past, you kind of had to have certain expectations of what you're dealing with, right?
Yes.
And there's certain degrees of how you set things up, and maybe you do some, preventative work. You lay a stronger foundation because you know what's coming your way. But the track record now for Vitality specifically, and this version of Vitality that is run by this coaching staff, in terms of the rosters that they've built, because they did the same with Hilly back in 2023.
Definitely.
They won
Yeah,
the
yeah.
split with Hilly, and then they brought him
Yep.
in, and then mid-season they just bring in Niski to just move on. But it's like, you know exactly the player that you are dealing with when you are working with Hilly. If you wanted to make that change, I doubt that there was any information that was new in the middle of the season. It's just that what you imagined didn't work out, and then you're panicking. Because I think that's what it came down to here. And I think that it just reflects, to me, if anything, it just reflects poorly on the Mac and Pad project over in Vitality, because they have been given a lot in terms of roster changes, roster decisions, and they've been given, free reign in a lot of ways. And now we're at a point where they were lucky to win against MCOY, in my opinion. This could have easily been a 0-3 weekend, and that's the worst way possible to start for Fiesta, because he was not performing well. This team clearly lacks leadership, and then in the end, in that the final game against MCOY, I feel like Linksas had a very good series, right? Good on him. But do we genuinely think that their chances are going to increase now in summer in comparison to before? What is the ambition of this Vitality project? Are they doing something long-term, short-term? Like, what is the vision here? I don't see the vision at all. And whatever Mac and Pad say, Pad specifically, what he says publicly, is so hard to believe it, because we had moments in the past where they say, oh, this is a youth project, we're going to invest a lot of time into them, and this is our vision, this is a 2-year project, and then one split later, boom, you're out. We need to press the panic button and bring in players that we worked with in the past. Niski come back, because they did the same with Reeker. I understand where you're coming from, but you had a very different vision. And I think if you couldn't have predicted and seen that coming your way, from the position that you're starting from, unless the player did something so extreme that it needs to be kicked, you're just making poor roster decisions. And if anything, we need to put Mac and Pat together with Peter Dunn and let Peter Dunn just do the roster for like the first, hire him for 2 weeks, do the roster, and then peace out, because without Peter Dunn, the roster building has just been terrible from these two.
Even then, though, I think they learned some of that from Peter Dunn, though, mate. I always tell Peter one of his problems is that he's too nice. Like, he also does that thing where he sees the game from the player side, so he doesn't want to let a player down by signing them and cut them when they can't be good, for example. Or he will bring people back who he thinks has a good quality. And I always tell him, yeah, but here's the thing, mate. If they then don't perform and you get fired, that doesn't work out. Like that, you get treated as responsible for that, because you were loyal to that guy, but in this case, the org's going to say, why weren't you loyal to us? Why didn't you cut it off? As you say, why not rip the band? You know what? A valid point you made there is the following. What people do forget is this detail, Yamato. I will never blame Fnatic whatsoever for how Humanoid played in 2022 and 2023, because when they signed him, on paper, they won the lottery. That was literally, everyone was in the Humanoid sweepstakes after Mad Lions. The premise went, if you can't have caps, and no one can have caps because he's on G2, the next best player is Humanoid. He's even a winner, because we saw how dope he was with Elyoya and Kazi and MCOY. He looked really good. And when they signed him, this was also before esports winter happened, and so there was still loads of investment money. So at the time, actually, it was one of the rare times Fnatic went really big on a contract, because they had to. Everyone was bidding. Think of it like in NBA, when people are superstars, you get offered the maximum contract, bro. So since everyone who's bidding for you offers the you're not going to accept less than that. So you're always going to go to a team. The joke is, actually, I imagine back then, bro, if it wasn't this team, it would have been something like a Vitality or another massive org would have signed him for big money. So on that one, I'll I'll never blame them because once they signed him, first of all, he was still good. He just wasn't winning. It's just the issue was because esports went happened, they could never shift his contract. I've heard even when people were interested, like even some LCS teams might have done it, there was just no money anymore. It would have been millions of dollars to do this deal. So unfortunately, you had to not only keep him, but you also had to keep playing him because benching a player with a contract like that is mental, bro. You're just paying two people's contracts. Now, here's where I will blame them though, because what you're saying is valid. A lot of people don't know this. You look it up. It's on the Fnatic website. At the end of 2023 is when they extended Humanoid's contract. Now, here's the problem there, boys. If you had learned your lesson and you really thought we had a big contract, it was an anchor around our neck, but it's ended now. Now we can move on. No, you chose to jump right back into that same situation. You extended him for 2 more years and you got 2 more years of underperformance and problems. And I'll tell you where I think you're making a valid point. You are right. You have to know. I actually think, by the way, this is something I often say about bosses or anyone with responsibility. In my opinion, one part of being the boss or being responsible is knowing other people's limitations, even if they don't know them themselves or they claim that that's not a limitation. What you should actually do is you should really cynically look at your employee and say, is this something he can't do? Because if it's something he can't do, it's actually bad of me to ask him to do it. Like, it doesn't matter. He says, oh, I'll do it, boss, or I'll try. No, you should know that he can't do that after working with him for a while and not give that assignment to someone else or replace them. You are right. The real problem Fnatic and Vitality have put themselves in is that famous parable of the scorpion and the frog. You know, where the scorpion goes, hey, frog, give me a ride over the river. And then the frog goes, well, no, because you're a scorpion, you'll sting me and then I will die. And he goes, no, I won't, because why would I do that? We both need to get across the river. And then halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog and they're dying. And I'll change it here. The frog's like, what the hell are you doing? We're dying. And then the scorpion's like, lol, I'm a scorpion, bro. You knew that. That's sort of what you're saying. It's like, in this scenario, if you are Fnatic when you extend him, or if you're Mac and Pat, you already know who this guy is. So surely, if he isn't super dialed in, he doesn't have the work ethic, you had to know that when you signed him or extended him. So I agree, on that level, they have to take some responsibility too. It's not only him. It's not only him. And I'm a lot less, listen, I have a lot more sympathy for the first 2 years of Fnatic, but I am with you. The extension is like, look, you chose to, in that analogy, you had a bad marriage with someone, and then he was like, do you want to get divorced? And you were like, nah, let's actually renew our vows. Like, well, we can't complain after that. You already knew what he was like. No, I'm with you. The real reason it sucks, though, and let's go to the Fiesta side is, bro, I always have told people this, in the world of the occult, Yamato, not only what your name is really irrelevant because their notion is every name and symbol attaches to other references, but also there's the notion that when you know someone's name, you can sort of control them. Bro, if you're going to call yourself Fiesta, you better be cracked as fuck at League of Legends. In fact, if you're going to be Fiesta, you better be the most controlled player ever, who plays like Chovy, and you never make a mistake. Because if your name is Fiesta and you play like it's a Fiesta, the memes write themselves, bro. They write themselves. Like that would be if Poby's alias was underwhelming. Yeah, no shit. No shit. Why have you named yourself that? Because that's not helping you, Marto. He's come over, and these games are Fiestas. These are complete clownfest games. Even the one they won against MCoy. Like, you can't look at that and tell me you're hyped about this player. It looks like a complete waste of everyone's time. The joke is I'd rather have Humanoid in. Can he not just play? Like, even when he was dodgy, at least had some carry games, you know? Like, this looks like it's going to be... I think they thought they were doing the Poby move, but you know what? The difference is, Yamato, I always gave this to Poby. Poby does play a fairly controlled, like, simple game where he doesn't try... This guy looks like he thinks he's going to fucking smurf on the West or something. It looks bad. I think it looks bad already.
The way Fiesta plays reminds me of, like, Eminence, you know? Like, the game lives and dies by him, regardless of what's going on around him, and... you know, whatever goes down here with Vitality, Fiesta's the last guy I'm going to blame. It's like, I have sympathy for the guys that get thrown into impossible situations, and I feel like this is definitely one of them.
By the way, you have to say yes. If you get this offer, you have to take it and hope it works, don't you? Come on.
Yeah. It was the same with Poby when he got to sub in for T1, or even Poby going into Fnatic, or Wembo now for BOG. It's like you get thrown into a situation where, you know, I have sympathy for you because you come in and you're supposed to deal with so much shit. And I saw an interview with Pat where he just said that they don't have a Korean translator, and basically he's just like, he's winging it, this dude, you know? He's winging it using translation apps, you know? he's doing it on hard mode. So I have extra sympathy for the guy. It felt good to see him in some moments like do good. Like he got that solo kill on Caps, but you just knew that right after that solo kill, the game is just going to collapse because enemy jungle is supposed is going to dominate you. And in the same game that he solo killed Caps, Caps also dropped like a 18 kill banger Ari game. So, you know, it's like he got thrown into the deep end. And also at the same time, you know, you get signed to a team, and then first weekend, back to back best of threes, you get to play the three best teams in the region, all of them with really good mid laners. It's like you can fault MCO for whatever you want, but they got Jojo Pune in the mid lane. So it's like it's just you were set up to fail in many ways. So you know, Godspeed. You know, good luck to you. Your only hope is the destruction of MCOI. I think that's the only hope.
Put it this way, I would say that Fiesta and Vitality, not a vibe. But did you know ZenAI is pioneering what they're calling vibe casting, which is basically where you just have a conversation. You just talk to someone, you vibe, you chat about something you're both into, and their whole platform is actually set up to then turn that into something you can share with people. So, first of all, they will actually pay new people to do vibe casting, create sportscast, cast about something in esports. You have a favorite team, a favorite player, the game itself, whatever your interests in. Basically, you just record a conversation doing it. You can do it on your phone. That can be the studio. And they use AI to take care of all the other things. You can do it solo. You can do it with a friend. And they can have it so that if you were doing it around like an LEC match or a sports game like the World Cup, you could start doing it during the game. And it's all so quick that before the game even ends, you can already have clips ready to share as like Reels, TikToks, Twitter clips, x.com, anywhere you would like to share different things with your community, with the wider world at large. Obviously, you don't need to have any tech ability. That's what ZenAI does for you. It is your AI producer, and it will do things like it will edit, it will clean up the audio, it will make the aforementioned clips that I mentioned before, it will make video edits that can just be you chatting in plain English, doesn't have to be anything complicated. You just hit record, have a conversation, and next thing you know, it's ready already to share with everyone. Humans are the talent, AI is the infrastructure, vibes are required, production is optional. So ZenAI is currently in invite-only beta. Join the waitlist today for a chance at early access. Go to zen.ai to sign up or head to our show notes for a direct link. Thank you to ZenAI, and shout out to anyone. If you ever watch shows like this and you think, well, I have thoughts about the game or I'd like to put it out there, one of the most complicated things actually is doing things like all the production elements and recording it and making that stuff's its own skill set. So give it a go with ZenAI. You can already have your takes out there. You can be sharing them with your mates. You can even annoy them after while you're watching the game. You make a little clip. The voice note gets turned into like a cool TikTok with the subtitles on. You send it to them. That'd be banter as fuck if their team just lost and you had a little thing like that. Like, this is why your team sucks. You pretend like Skip Bayless or something. I think that's fire. Anyway, I do that professionally, but I would probably do this shit for free anyway if I was just a pleb. That's the secret of my career. So let's go on. Yamato, in the LEC, another angle I've got for you. I've got an edgy angle that I haven't heard anyone address this. Bro, what was the main... let me see if you can see where my mind's going here.
Okay.
Even though people made fun of Mickey X, let's be real. What do you think was the number one reason or thing people hated about SK Gaming? See where I'm going here?
What they hated about them?
Yeah. What did people hate the most about SK Gaming? Is it that hard?
Damn, where you going with this?
Isn't it Leader, the mid laner? Am I wrong on this?
Sure,
Didn't every single fan agree? Leader sucks. He shouldn't be. He's only there because Mickey X is mate, right?
Yeah.
Good news.
Well, when you say hated, I was like, did SK do something?
No. By the way, they're one of the most fucking... They're one of the most room temperature orgs ever, bro. There's nothing to hate about SK Gaming. They're just run by a German guy who runs it as a company. But my point is, everyone hated on Leader, but I haven't heard anyone celebrating. Bro, he's gone. If you don't know, they brought in Slowq, who's a guy who's playing a decent job at the ERL level. Also, if you remember last split, they actually were, in fact, in both splits, they had a bunch of games they could have won. They were in some decent spots. Some of the other players, like Mickey X, like Wonder, have had some good games. I think Skeen's been out. I think people are missing that. Like, bro, I actually think SK will be competitive this split. Because remember, once you get outside, we didn't talk about MCOI. Once you get outside the top two teams, bro, Mate, MCoy looks way more vulnerable. Vitality's way more vulnerable. Maybe Shifter's got better, but suddenly that middle group can be really competitive. I think SK is going to win some games, mate. I think this low Q guy isn't a bomb. And I actually think a lot of Leader's issues, his issues weren't even pure performance. It was that he just skews the draft too much, doesn't he? Like, it's really hard. I actually think also whether that's a player that shouldn't be playing in Fearless. In the old system, he could play, you know, his Yawn and his Zed and all that. It's going to be really hard in Fearless to make comps that are going to work in a game 5 if you ever get there, if you're leader, you know. I actually think low key, this is not a bad angle. I think SK had a little bit of something anyway. I know now that we've all forgotten, because Labrom's been so good in G2 and Fnatic's fat, no one cares about the drama with Mickey X. That's gone now. But the leader's gone. So if your big complaint was nepotism and leadership, he's gone, bro. Now they've actually just got like an LEC roster for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the point that you made about like having close games is like SK threw a lot of games. They genuinely did. They threw a lot of games where they had winning conditions. They had great chances to win just from game state. I do think having a stable force in mid lane, because even when Leader was playing like his unique champions, he didn't have an edge. He was just losing lane. The main concern for me, what is going to, let's say, hold back SK from success is still the jungle position. I think if Skeens finds a way to, because often at the end of those throws, when they were winning positions, it was always Skeens overreaching. He was basically Razork on steroids with maybe less of an upside, because in terms of Mickey and his creativity and how big of a revelation Yopa turns out to be, because that's a super signing. It's like Yopa is a player that's going to stay. Like
that's good scouting. You can see why if Mickey X picked him, he did a good job, bro.
If Yopa joins MCoy next year, for example, I won't be mad. I'd be like, damn, that's a good signing. That's a step up, and that's a step in the direction that he clearly deserves. I think he's a very strong player.
Yes.
And then Wunder, I think that he has found a way to be very effective. Like he still is the most knowledgeable top laner in the league, and I think that that's something that you can work with. He's basically our version of Flounder at this point, where he can easily be effective and find ways to apply himself. I think that they have the making of something good, and at the same time, it's like Mickey in terms of what he can offer from the support role. Like he had a lot of funky, unique support angles, and if there's anybody in the league that is going to like perform super well on the Camilles and the Shens and the Tariks, Mickey is going to be the guy I want to bet on. I think in the end, the main question for me is like if Skeens can find a way to actually play a more stable game, which is a tough task because he's been very unstable during his time in SK in terms of how he throws games and doesn't have an appreciation for leads. That to me is going to be the big question mark. Because if there was one strength of Leader that was showcased a couple of times in the game, is that he's very good at rallying teammates to come and fight around him. And that's something that happens. Like support and junglers, he makes them flock to you. And I wonder now with slow Q in the mid lane, is that going to make the game easier to play because they can play around other details, or is slow Q going to try to act in that manner of leadership? Because I'm hoping that we still get to see, the Mickey X version of League here, that he is the driving force and he's the leader of the team. Maybe we're going to see that version. I have some doubts, but I can definitely see the angle where they can step up to the plate. We have such a clear top 2 in the LEC, and the middle of the table, you can make arguments for a lot of the teams. It's like MCoy is the easy one, but you can also make arguments as to why they would fall apart, as we saw on this weekend. Starting 0-3 is ugly.
Because what's sad is, from knowing Mickey X, I even know why he did this move, bro. Because remember, Mickey X is one of those guys who plays solo queue with a whole bunch of different people and always has for years and years and years. And I can tell he's one of those people where if he sees in solo queue, you're insane. And if people don't know, Leader does have a very high skill level, and he can have some absolutely insane outplayers that look super dope. But much like, I actually also think Mickey X would play with Upset if he had the chance. I mean, obviously he did once, didn't he? Like, if he ever plays with these guys in solo queue and he sees you really skilled, I think he's just one of those people who thinks, oh, maybe you're in the wrong team environment. If you're with me, it would be different, because he's had all the success in his career and he's played fabulously. So in that sense, I think all he did is just overcook with the Leader angle. I actually think people are forgetting, if Mickey X picked the rest of the team, he actually did a pretty good job, Yamato. Like, remember, it's SK game and he just had millions of dollars. Like, Wunder coming back's a pretty good min-max, actually. You can tell that guy will have decent matchups. Skeens one's an interesting one because he is a veteran. He's played a long time. And the Yoppa one actually just looks good. That's just a good signing. Yeah, again, if the by the way, I'll tell you what, you're talking about. Yeah, you're right. If they put that instead of Super, I'd like that movement. Yeah, maybe if you're Spanish, you wouldn't, but I think that's an upgrade. That actually looks like a player with real promise. Whereas Super, I'm sorry, Super's plateaued so fucking hard. It's crazy. Like he's just never going to be better than he is. Like, and so you can even tell him like they did this year. You better get back. You can't. He looks like he's maxed out his whole game. Like you can't expect more. We've seen so many years of Super. We know what to expect from him.
And the chant just works too, you know? It's like they would say, super, just yopa.
Same one.
The fans are already
Same
into
shit.
it. It's like, it's
Exactly.
easy. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
No problem at all. Just plug and play.
No, I'm with you, mate. Also, yeah, I actually think the other one as well is I actually just want some brief thoughts of what you think about, because I don't know if you saw this drama the other day. It came out a day ago on Sheep Esports. They have an interview. I'll quickly link it here with Reapered, right? And he says something crazy. He basically says that if you go through and read it, that at MSI, I wasn't really part of the draft. That in spring finals, I pushed for the direct. He takes claim for the draft in Game 5 of the spring finals, which they lost, obviously. He says, I pushed for the direction we took in Game 5 of the spring finals, and draft was a disaster. I thought then maybe I shouldn't touch drafts anymore. After MSI, I realized that actually wasn't going to work. So basically, apparently, he's just going to be back to drafting again. Now, the reason that is significant is, I will say, one of the main areas I used to flame Reaper in Cloud9 is I always thought he was one of the most notoriously like criminal Game 5 drafters. Like he would always try to do like the Yu-Gi-Oh, like you've activated my trap card, 500 IQ. It's like sometimes when you do that, I always say sometimes you can 500 IQ yourself. You know what I mean? Like you make it too complicated, and it's like at the end, just pick what's strong for you and what will work in the game. So what's bizarre is he's almost admitting he was part of the fuck up before, but that didn't work without him. And he's just back. He's back. Like, what do you think about this?
I think that the interview, I don't know what's up with the PR of head coaches. It's just, you know,
someone gave them all truth juice or something, bro. They're all just saying all the shit you're supposed to like keep behind like vague words in it. I know him and Turks are just having an int off in the interviews. They took the int in interview too seriously.
It's just
it's not an interview, it's an interview. Whatever, I'm working with something there. Keep going. I could that better than his draft. That could make more sense.
To first admit, like first he threw his guy under the bus.
I know.
He just threw Zeph under the bus. Yeah. It's like, yo, I decided after the finals, I'm not gonna do the draft. My other guy did the draft, and I saw, damn, he's just worse than I am.
Yeah. Because it takes basically, I'm shit at drafting, but this guy, holy fuck, like, what are you doing? I'm doing my best here. I know it's crazy work, innit? I know.
Because even if it's true, right? It's like as the head coach of the project, you basically putting someone in charge of draft still means you're responsible. It's your draft because you made that decision. Yes. And especially in terms of how you communicate that publicly, like you can't be throwing people under the bus.
No.
Like, I understand what he's saying, right? That he recognizes like, yo, like that was some weak-minded shit where we in the Game 5, I made a blunder, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to recuse myself rather than like biting down and figuring out the mistake and, you know, rising to the occasion and growing from it. I understand that angle, you know, that he tried to present, but it's just like the PR is just not looking clean. He threw his boy Zeph under the bus, and the reaction post MSI. It's like even the point about what the approach was to EWC, where he said that we just needed to stop. We need to just play like humans again. So that's what we decided to do. That to me just says that the EWC performance was extremely random in the sense that, you know, just so people out there understand, is like in terms of momentum and having the feeling that you won and feeling that you could win, and how that kind of alleviates certain pressures and puts your mind in a better place, just to see like a Nexus explode on stage after being smacked around at MSI. And what it does for your confidence is a very big deal, because I want to take people back to the EWC. We remember the story of how they went to the finals, how they beat T1, but I also remember in that same tournament, they almost lost to Team Secret. That was very close. They started off this tournament very rocky. And the only person really locked in the beginning was Kalist. Like, he was very sharp in the beginning, and then eventually everyone else kind of followed suit. We had like good performances from Kana, and then everyone kind of caught up to it. In terms of how lucky that is, in terms of the approach, it's like just hoping that things work. I've been in that position too. 2022 Fnatic. If we don't get that combo on enemy Sivir with our Gragas and our Yumi, then we are gonna get trioed by Excel, and then after that combo alone, we reverse swept. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck to find your confidence again and build momentum again, to just get to kind of let your neurons fire in a way where they open up pathways of possibility again. And I think that's what happened to KC, because I thought that sentence was also crazy in itself, where the approach was, you know what, let's just play good and go into the tournament. That's like a hope and a prayer, you know, that's a hope and a prayer, and it worked, because sometimes that's all you can do. But in terms of those parts of the interview, I don't know what kind of a message you're trying to convey. I don't know what the point was, because usually whenever I did interviews, I always did it with a very specific intention, because like when I took the coaching job, I took inspiration from the places that I could. It's like I was lucky the first time I coached, I got to work with Horo, and he worked with Coma. So I like picked his brain about everything that he did, everything that he worked. And then the other place that I took inspiration from was, of course, traditional sports, because in terms of coaching in League, there was nothing really there at the time in League of Legends. And even now, it's very few people that you can look up to and learn from, because in terms of the material, it isn't clearly there, and it's very vague what coaches actually do. But I took inspiration from like Mourinho and Ferguson, Ancelotti, in terms of what they use the media for. Like that was like a big point for me in terms of the messages that you try to convey, because I usually use it as a vehicle to defend my players, defend my staff, and to shape narratives that are good for my players, or to communicate directly to my players with very specific things that I want them to hear from a different angle. So I think the intentionality of what you do with interviews is something that could be done more. But from our side, we're happy to see people more and more honest. It's funny. It makes for good content. So shoot from the hip all you want, coaches.
Yeah, definitely. Right, here's what we're going to do. Let's switch up and do a bit of LCS. So I've got a poly market for you for this, which is obviously who's going to win LCS summer. I think it's actually quite an interesting topic now, because if you think about it, Cloud9 has made the roster changes. Obviously, Lion has that thing where everyone assumes Inspired will just carry the playoffs and they'll win as usual. But you have Team Liquid look better and better. I thought they got better towards the end of the split, looked way better in general. I actually think, if anything, they weren't one of the few losers in the plains who came out looking good. They looked like they drafted well, team played well. Jose Diodor's getting his shit back together. Now, obviously, I will say, I understand this isn't quite the same as if I'd done this 2 months ago. YamatoCannon does literally work as one of the coaching staff of Cloud9. So he's allowed to be biased. So the question here is, there's two-parter. One, who wins the LCS? Which obviously you can say whatever you want on that one. The second one is, forget who wins it, what's the best value out of these picks here? So what are your thoughts, Yamato? Who wins the LCS, first of all?
I think from even where we're at right now, like I can be honest, you know, it's you know, we got smoked by Team Liquid, and the challenge that we are facing, right, as a team, is that we are playing catch up in many ways. It's like the C9, in terms of how they played through the regular season and the challenges they faced, of course, in playoffs, meant that fundamentally the foundation of what they were building is something that doesn't last through a playoffs. So you have to restructure, and you do that through roster changes, and you do that through, of course, you know, actually starting from scratch in a way, while the opposition, you know, you look to Team Liquid and Lion in particular, they have just hit the ground running. Like they found their peak. You know, we were talking on the show so many times about how Team Liquid's roster is so damn good, and it doesn't make sense that they are not as competitive as they are.
Yes.
And there was always conversations that we heard like in the past about how good this team is in scrims, and it just doesn't show up on stage. So there was clearly something there, because we believe in Spawn, we believe in Core JJ, we believe in the vision of this roster, and just we didn't get to see it. And now coming into summer, a lot of things are falling into place. Like Team Liquid looks dangerous, Lion looks dangerous. Both of these teams had relatively like successful just international performances based on from what we expected them. Like Team Liquid going through planes and smoking KC the way they did is a massive success because they were an underdog coming into that matchup. Losing to T1, it is what it is. And Lion had a pretty decent MSI showing, of course, themselves with trioing G2. So these teams are hitting the ground running currently. Just from an objective standpoint, to predict C9 as winner doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. From my side, just coaching the team, it's like we have a lot of things to figure out. A lot of things to figure out. It's like we're hopeful because mentally, obviously, you need to be. Otherwise, like you need to be to work the right way. And everyone's putting in effort. I believe in Dom too, but that's not a part of like making an objective, just prediction right now. Because if you look off of form, Team Liquid cooked us. The jungle support movement, everything, how they played in terms of managing the map, playing off of Fog of War, and hitting the right beats, farming side, and then choosing their fights. It's like the only aspect where we were remotely competitive was like in some of the team fight moments, because I do think that mechanically this player, the C9, the players have a lot to offer, but strategically we are very far behind. And that's a challenge that you need to face. While you look at Team Liquid, they don't have that challenge. They just need to keep going, keep maintaining, and keep moving forward. And I don't see Team Liquid as a team that would ever like collapse. So Team Liquid and Lion look like clear front runners, and Lion is just a little bit too hard to doubt with Inspired at the helm. That's a team to beat, 100%.
Especially because of how the other players in Lion are playing. Like, first of all, Duncan just knows his job. He is like NA Flandre at this point in time. He just does his fucking job. He lets the other people carry, doesn't demand resources. Actually, the two Koreans have been smurfing the last fucking month or so, mate. Saint and Berserker just carry every bloody game. And I'll tell you what, I've never been a fan of this guy. I've hated on him for a long time. But actually, at MSI, Isles was actually fucking cooking, bro. Actually against Hanwha Life, for fuck's sake, mate. Like, he actually was having some big games there, like, on a level I never expected. So the whole team's just coming together. So look, I do think Lion will win this split. I mean, I can tell you right now, don't ask how, you'll find out soon. I can tell you I literally talked to Upset, and he actually just totally admitted, yeah, I don't really give a shit about regular season games. In fact, I even tell my team basically, just do whatever you want in them, just like try stuff out, because he knows as long as you get to the playoffs, he just runs the playoffs. That's what it's been like in NA for years and years across like 3 different orgs now. So I get why he's confident in that sense. He just knows, like, he's doing that G2 T1 shit, bro, where it's like, it doesn't matter if I'm the 4th seed, I'll still win the fucking playoffs anyway. If anything, I'll make life worse for the 1st seed. I'm going to beat you in the final anyway, so I'll just beat you earlier in the tournament. And then I'm with you. The problem is this. I do think the Cloud9 roster is good. I always thought the Loki guy was a skilled player, especially in NA. I don't know about tactical. I think that's a little bit more of a sus. I think it's just they didn't believe in Sven as much. So the problem is, I do think Cloud9 has a good roster of players. I'm still skeptical about the shot calling element. If that's really blabber, not really a big fan of that aspect. So I've got to say, I think Lion will win. But if you want value, I actually think there's a decent value, like you're saying in Team Liquid, mate. At 32%. Actually, I think there's a world they can win. Like, I think they look like Spawn's really gotten the whole team together. Everyone looks at the play way better from when the year began. They've gotten better every month, it felt like. And actually, I do think the macro in the draft I think it's plausible they can contest Lion here. If you want to take a cheeky, like, bigger out value angle, you go with Team Liquid, or you just go with the safe pick of Lion. I think those are the two. I think it's easy enough to do those ones personally. Actually, I have a question for you that goes like this. One thing that was interesting last split that actually really showed how different the regular season was is, people forget this, Inspired wasn't going to be the MVP because they were so whack in the regular season. It wasn't the MVP voting. It was Vulcan who won it in the end. Jose Diodo, I think, was second. And I think third, I can't even remember who was third, but again, it wasn't like Inspired, I don't think. It was someone else. So I would ask you this question. Who do you think will be this season's MVP? Who's the player, like, like, put it this way, overall, we say Inspired's the best in the league, but if he doesn't give a fuck in the regular season, maybe he won't be. Who is the best player in that sense? Who in the regular season, who do you expect to cook?
I think in the regular season, I think honestly, from looking at from the perspective of other teams, I do think that Code JJ looks interesting, especially with how he played against us. I do think that Team Liquid's evolution is spearheaded by Coach JJ's experience. I think we are finally seeing like the good form in him, and I think that from Lion's side, I do think that Saint is very dangerous as a player. I think this is also very dangerous. And from our side, like, if we manage to make it, and we are the number one team after the regular season. I just imagine that being off of the back of Blabber, because I think our performance are going to live like our peaks, when we hit our peaks, is going to be off of Blabber just hitting every timing possible, and when things hit right for him, things look fantastic. So that would be my estimation from where I'm at.
Okay, obviously there haven't been that many games, so we'll do the other ones when the big matches come around, right? There is actually some drama about the LPL, but it's mainly just drama for this one. It's not about the results. So if we switch over and talk a little bit about the LPL, there's obviously a perfect opportunity for me to tie into the sponsor for this one, because the sponsor we have is Rocket Money. Now, if you don't know what is Rocket Money, it is an app that basically allows you to keep a track of all your finances and figure out all the money coming in and out, figure out like what subscriptions do you have. Maybe you've forgotten about some and there's some that you've still got running that you should have cancelled or you never got round to. It's got all sorts of different things like that are really, really useful. You can actually go ahead and save money potentially, because it can actually help you do things like, as in literally save money. You can set up like a goal, like I want to save for a holiday or to buy a car or something down the line that you want to actually on a regular basis save money. You can set that up as like a little goal. Then you can track where you're going with it, etc. How much you put in each month, how long it's going to take to get there. Might, as I say, be a wedding, all sorts of things. I don't know about you. I'm one of those people. I do tend to just look at the amount in there and I think about how much I want to spend today. And I'm not as good at thinking in 2 months, will I need that certain amount stored up, or actually you need to put away this each month to get to. I use that stupid thing where I think, well, I want to make X amount, and then it's like, yeah, but you have to put all that straight into the thing 3 months from now. Like, you want to make it more comfortable so you can manage your lifestyle. Similarly, they have things like it allows you to figure out, like, is your credit card balance getting out of control? Are you going to need to pay that off soon? Like, don't just wait until you get that thing, like you're overdrawn, you got to pay the fine. Like, who wants that? You want to get all that stress out of your equation. You want to be able to easily see, a bit like with health apps, tracking what's going on, where the issues to worry about, what are your goals, are you working your way towards it? Also, think about how many hours it actually takes to run through all the statements on your bank account, on your credit card, on all the different bills, and to keep them all in your mind. I don't know about you, they call it an open loop. Those are things you worry about. They're in the back. Oh, no, you have to pay that bill at some point. You have one place you can take all this stuff and you can keep track of it all, make it really easy. Also, when you know the budgeting and the amount that you got coming in and what you're saving for, you hopefully then you'll be encouraged not to overspend or to go beyond your means and think, I can make it up on the back end. And then I can just see it in life. I'm one of those people who's really immature for a long time. So things like this is what I already do in my own life. Like, there's lots of different ways where they can do things like automatic transaction categorization across accounts. You can customize categories. You can tag things to show what your spending is on things that are more frivolous or just for fun or whatever it might be. You can figure out things that would help you in the future. You want to save for something in your organization or do something where there's a big event coming up you have to plan for that's different from your normal monthly spending habits. There's so many aspects here that just makes it easier to consolidate everything, your checking, your savings, your loans, investment, all into a single dashboard with a clear overview. What is your financial picture? And as said, it'll help you potentially set guidelines and footsteps of where your goals are and where you want to get to. So Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/LFN. That's rocketmoney.com/LFN. Is there an echo in here? Rocketmoney.com/LFN. Okay, right. It's like the Grand Canyon in here. Anyway, I even do the free pantomime shit at the end of the ad. Right, now we're going to talk about some delicious. Listen, you might think Joe Marsh and T1 drama. You might think in NA, someone said something naughty and sulky. Nobody beats the Chinese for drama, because they will do shit like get BLG, a team that like a month ago looked like they were going to win everything, break all the records, win the Golden Road, be the greatest team of all time. They'd all go down in history. 20 years from now, they're meeting when they're all old and grey and they're hugging. Brother, the way we carried in that tournament, like no one could have done it like us. John, we wish we never kicked you, bro. Wow, solo laners. You know, I used to have to play with the Yagao in the past, but now that you were here, Knight, I knew it was a different era. Instead, just because they fucking lost EWC and MSI, they've allowed some stupid ass drama to blow the team. If you don't know, by the way, guys, the reason Bin left the team, and it was implied wasn't even going to come back, had nothing to do with losing that MSI final. It wasn't that he got gapped by Zeus or he didn't do well. It wasn't that EWC is a bit sus. Apparently, there's some stupid ass drama, like people's parents talking shit about each other, or people making inappropriate. One of them was even like the idea someone made an inappropriate comment. I think it was implied it was Bin about like Jun, like made some comment about his parents, and apparently Jun has like a bad relationship with his parents. So this is almost like the shit where, like, you know, the thing, Yamato, where people say when you get in an argument with someone you're really close to, it's not that you don't believe the things you say normally. It's that obviously you have tact normally. You protect people's feelings. When you get in an argument with someone you know, you say the thing that's a bit true, but it's hurtful. You know what I mean? You do that thing where you try to get the shot in the ribs. It sounds like they just did that. Now, true, some of that could be because they lost. I'm sure they thought they were going to win MSI. I bet they thought EWC was in the bag too. Like, these are all big losses for a team that could win everything. But this story, it began as Bin's just leaving the team. He's off. Fuck y'all. I'm out. He's out the team. Implied, maybe even kicked. Like maybe Knight was like, fuck this guy, get him out. Then there's the whole thing of they brought in Wenbo. And if people don't know, Wenbo sucks. Like, look, hard situation. You have to come into a massive team. But even so, that's not a great sign, unfortunately. If you kept that player in, look, you might be able to win the LPL because I'll crack you. You wouldn't win Worlds, I'm telling you that right now. So in the meantime, they've also scrambled. Can we replace Bin? Now, what's bizarre, Yamato, is based on the current information, Bin's coming back anyway. He is coming back. But simultaneously, they're also signing Flandre, who's, if you don't know, just got kicked out of anyone's legend. So what's bizarre is now it looks like they're getting Bin and Flandre. So I don't even know on this one. Is this going to be the sword shield of Bin's the carry player and Flandre's, you know, your weak side of the tank? Or is this, which by the way, would have helped in the MSI final maybe. Or is this going to be Flandre is here, so that if Bin ever walks out again, he can't hold us hostage. This time you really got him, motherfucker. You walk out that door this time, Flandre's just the player. And you know what? Again, like a 369, this is going to be weak side all day long. Listen, Viper, get ready, mates. You're on deck to carry. Like, what do you think of this move? The drama's crazy. I can't believe that. If we hadn't waited till now, we'd have to do a whole nother episode next week if they hadn't assigned Flandre already. Like, the drama never ends, does it? Every time you think, right, they're finally going to play this, suddenly, whose music is that? Flandre's? Like, it's crazy, bro. What's going on?
I don't know, the all the like insiders on Weibo, and we get the translations. It's been so hard to follow what the hell has been going on. Like the journey of like how apparently Bin's parents are active on Weibo and they like comments that are like disparaging about the teammates, and apparently they had dinner with Knight's parents and they were insulting to them. And then apparently like Shun as a person, like apparently like his
I'm imagining some like Meet the Fockers shit where it's like some nightmare parents come on tonight, like I don't know, like
and apparently like Shun's relationship with his family apparently is good, but he keeps it extremely private.
Oh, right.
Like
right.
extremely private.
Okay.
And then somehow it like came in the open through this topic too, which was seen as a big negative, right? Because Shun is just so private about it, and he's very, very careful about it. Because like the stories that came out about Shun, that he came from like very humble beginnings, and all his money he spent it to buy them a house, and he didn't have like the money to even play at like the PC bunks. Because apparently Shun got good at the game, elo boosting people in the cafe. It's like, yo, you need help?
Okay.
It's like, let me play on your PC.
Yeah. So Cyberpunk shit in it. I love it. Yeah. I love
it's a sick story.
Yeah.
So Shun comes out a legend from all the rumors. And then obviously the EWC result, apparently like at EWC, Bin didn't try out enough, and he like kind of said, fuck this shit, and that pissed Shun off. So you have Shun and Knight being unhappy with it. And I can imagine from Danny's side too, you know, it's like, yo, we got to do something. And before we had the Flandre news confirmed, at some point we had the Hoya news confirmed, and then like even websites showed BLG Hoya like
that was scaring me. I've got to tell you, listen, I'm not a Hoya fan more. I know that's some base one shit. What are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing?
That's like a stick that isn't strong enough to like, you know, Bin can just sit and wait, you know. He's like, yo, Hoya's gonna get me back into the team, you know. And then finally the additional layer of drama was that Flandre is now out of the team. And the guy who reported that and said that Flandre is out of AL also mentioned in the same post that the reason Tabe left AL was because he asked for more money, and second, that he wanted to replace Hope. And apparently the GM,
Ooh, that's fire.
the GM of AL apparently really likes Hope, and he's going to extend him,
Oh,
and he's going to
bloody
keep him on the
hell.
team. Which is crazy, right? It's like, imagine lose Tabe because he wanted to make the
I
right
know.
decision. So now we're here. Flandre apparently, now the rumor, because might change. It's like, I don't know how to treat these Weibo things. Before I see him on the Rift with the BOG Flandre tag, I'm not going to commit to anything. But at least Flandre, is the type of player that has the experience, work together with Viper. They won a world championship together. There is a synergy there. And Flandre is the type of guy that you can throw in, and if he plays deep matches at an international, or he like plays deep into playoffs, you don't have to worry. Flandre's experience, it's like he's going to be like, as I compared Flandre, like Wunder to Flandre, the same way I could compare Flandre to Wunder. It's like Wunder came into a team after a 1 week's notice and took Fnatic all the way to a finals, just because it's just intuitive. He knows how to create a role for himself within a team. And at the same time, the coolest thing about Flandre on BOG is that he never has to play against Bin. That is a massive plus, because that was his biggest issue.
Absolutely.
That was his biggest issue, was he played against Bin, and Bin would win both sides of the matchup. So BOG, they get Flandre, and taking Bin out of the equation is a massive plus. And I think that this is a stick that is powerful enough where we can still imagine the strengths of BLG be a strong enough version of themselves where they can be a contender. And I think that was the most important thing. You don't need to have a super carry like Bin. You just needed someone that works in the team environment and at the same time won't be like a liability due to the lack of experience. Because if they, for example, went all the way with, Wembo, and he's playing his first international, and that's the world championship, it's just like, good luck, good luck. It's like BLG probably would win the split anyway because of how good everybody else is, but that would just be too big of a question mark. When you have this roster, you need someone experienced to plug and play because you have the ambition to do as much as possible. Because for all you know, next year you might not have this roster together. Like, this is a roster that you invest into, and apparently Flandre is getting the max payout, so good for him.
Yeah, also people claimed that Flandre was asking for too much money as well. Here's where I'm mad though, right? By the way, I actually like both aspects for BLG. Like I say, I actually think having both would be the move right now. Ben clearly has some drama fucking gene in his body, doesn't he? Like, he's done this in the past, and there's a bunch of times where he's either caused drama publicly or privately he's done some shit. So, look, I will say, he also has the sort of game that goes hand in hand with being a diva. What you have really high highs and really low lows, and usually the implication, like Forgiven, is on your highs, you have to get everything your way because you're carrying. But then when you shit the bed, no one's allowed to say, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Because you think, hey, I'm better than you. Listen, that's classic top laner arrogance. I always say top laners are the guys who think they're like fucking Achilles in Troy or something. Mate. Like, I'm the shit. Like, and Bin's definitely in that category. Remember, he used to play with your Yagao, so he used to be like, I am the daddy. I'm the fucking carry. You're just the mid laner, bro. Problem is, that doesn't really work when Knight's on your team, bro. And also, Jun, he's the reason why you're winning again, you mad fuck. Did you remember what it was like playing with Beishwa and all that time in the Shadow? Like, you fucking want this guy in your team, you idiot. All you had to do, literally, is not talk or not have your parents talk and say stupid shit about your teammates. Mate, tell them to say that in the off-season. Don't say it now during the season. We're trying to fucking win the World Championship, bro. This is fucking dog shit. We've already, like, some of us have already won MSI. We're trying to win MSI. We're trying to win Worlds, you fuck. We're number one. Everyone's even saying we're number one when we didn't win the tournament, so you're messing it up. So I'll tell you what's also interesting to me is that information you're saying also changes completely my mind about the AL move, bro, because I'll tell you what, I'm puzzled by this. Because you know what? On paper, I don't hate the move because of who came in. They brought in Breathe from IG. I actually think Breathe is in his whole career been an underrated playmate. His problem is he's not been all the shy. But I'll tell you what, once you get past not being all the shy, he's right there in that Zika category of like a good top laner, like a guy who fucking carry games, mate. Like, he's a skilled player. I've always said, if you want to put an LPL top laner on the Renekton game, this guy's right on your fucking wheelhouse. Like, he clearly knows how to be a carry top laner, right? They obviously didn't have that threat from Flandre in anyone's legend. He was there to somewhat be like the weak side, the low resource player, so that Shanks and Hope could carry. Now, the reason the Hope angle, though, is what makes me a bit mad about the Flandre angle is this. I like this move on paper because I don't think Shanks plays good enough League of Legends, and I think Hope just isn't capable of it, bro. For me, Hope is in that category of like super and sneaky, where I actually respect them as players. They look like they try really hard. I just don't think they are capable. And sorry, you play AD carry, bro. If there was ever a role that's about having 10 out of 10 hands, it's AD carry, mate. Like, that's why it's easy. Even when Super used to beat Kalist, to go, Kalist's the prospect, Super's just a good player. Like, you might beat him in a match, mate, but in history, he's going to be a legend. You're just going to be a guy who played in the LEC and was good. Like, there's different. So I agree. If it turns out Hope is like, essentially like the Nepo baby of the org owner, it just sounds like Flandre got punished for Shanks and Hope not being good enough. Like, if Flandre's job was never to be the best top player in the LPL, his job was let Shanks be the MVP and let Hope carry the team fights. Like here's what's sad. On the one hand, I think anyone's engine upgraded, but I also wonder, mate, about that makes me really wonder about the future of their org. Like, if I'm Tarzan and I hear that, so Hope's in the team forever. Bro, we play in the LPL. It's the region for AD carries. We can't have a guy who's like above average but not elite. Like, that's the number one position in our league. And also, you think about some of the other moves, Yamato. My boy 1XN still in prison. Leave, still in prison. Fucking Assam even just got from NIP to IG. Where are these players in anyone's legend? And also, if you're telling me we could have kept Tabe and upgraded Hope, is there a truck service in China? Someone tell me, like, I need to order a truck, you know. Tabe back in is what the truck needs to say. Fucking hell. Who's this org owner? Who's this joker? This sounds like the IG owner. He's just doing shit based on personal friendships.
Imagine they got Gala. He would, yeah, bro.
That would be spicy. That would be spicy. Listen, I'll gamble on that. I'd go for that. The highs of Gala are really good, bro. Don't you think this is crazy? Because you know what I mean? On one level, I actually do fuck with the animals. I think Breathe's going to be good, man. I like that change.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for the team. A little bit more firepower. It's like Shanks. I think that when surprisingly when he's playing melees, I think he's really good. So he should just like lean into that a little bit more, and then you can like get more out of him. I'm with you 100% on the Hope angle because regardless of what the ADC meta is, he's always going to be in the middle. Whether it's like hyper carries through bot lane or whether it's the other direction of playing more. Of the Zig style or the Jin style. It's like you have ADCs like Jackie Love or even like a player like who's not even playing right now, like a player like Light, I would think in his heyday was just better than Hope because he just hasn't found, he hasn't breached those peaks. The ADC position in the LPL is just so special where most players just have like the occasional game where they're just like 1v9 if they get the opportunity to do so. There's so many ADCs that do that, and I'm with you on the whole point. Breathe adds a layer of firepower where he can play the more contested matchups, the skill matchups, whether it's like Naren to Ambessa. That's not something that you trusted Flandre on. It was weird in the opening series for Breathe where he played like Ornn and Kisante in game 2 and 3, which looked very goofy. But I was like, yo, you just gotta recognize, this is a different nameplay. His Ornn was one of the ugliest Ornns I've ever seen. But look at the boy's nameplay. Let him play the standard top laners in Renekton, Nar, and the Ambessa, and lean into it a little bit more. And once again, if Bidden's not playing, it is the top laners of LPL are all sighing like a breath of just they're all relieved because suddenly the hierarchy of things changes completely. Bin was the one that warped things because now if we ask the question, if Bin is not playing, who is the best top laner in the league? Could be Breathe, Xiaoshu, Flandre maybe now on the BLG, in a new suit. Zueyan, of course, on top esports. It's like that's up for the taking. Who are we going to call the best top laner coming out of the LPL at the end of the split? Is a very hard prediction to make.
I just thought the drama of it was the most interesting. It seems like both teams, it's just drama. These players aren't even getting kicked based on how they play in the game, for fuck's sake. What are we doing? Like, this is why the LPL will always be its own worst enemy, bro. Because, like, I just don't see that level of drama in the other leagues. Like, I actually think in the other leagues, you deal with this in the off season. You know what I mean? You don't do it in the middle of the season, because that's why I even get why I can see why he did it, Yamato, because if he knows you don't have anyone to replace him with, you sort of have to go after him and go, come on, bro, can't we work this out, etc. Whereas actually in that moment, if you're a team like BLG, if he leaves, you want to be able to go, fuck you, right? Okay, it's 369 off Friday. They come in, you forget about you, mate. You can sit on the bench and contract prison for all we care. Like, apologize to Knight and his family or whatever. Like, so whatever. It's a whatever at this point. Luckily, the good news here is this. Both teams look like they should be good as long as you actually get them signed. Like, the Wembo guy can't stay, though. Come on. Get him out. Get him out. Get him the fuck out the team. That's some Beishwan shit. Also, if you're a Knight fan, I had to put up with the Beishwan shit last year. Now I have to have Wenbo. Can I just have a real fucking team? Why am I getting tortured? Why am I going from super stacked rosters that can win worlds to, like, who's this guy? Just found him in the alley. He's got the jersey on. No, like, no, what are we doing? And the worst thing is, right, if you saw the game today as well, Knight is playing out of his mind every game, bro. He's like the best player in League of Legends, literally. Like, I actually think, like, right now, you could just say he's the best player in the world, man. I don't care whether they win or lose. He just smurfs every game. It's crazy. So just give him all I want, all I've ever wanted when it's a great player is. I don't need the best player in every role. Just give me a competent player in every role, and then let's see if Knight can do it. So it's not even that can't be Wembo. It can be Flandre. It doesn't have to be Bin. It can be Flandre. That's enough. I'll take Flandre. I'll take it. Because I'll tell you what, we're only going to address it briefly. But Yamato, it's back. Yeah, I think, what do you mean? It's back. IG's back, motherfucker. That's right. The Shy, Rookie, Way's there. You know what? Normally I hate on Way. All his job his job is to be a waiter to two of the most dominant solo laners ever, homie. Also, they got Assam in from Nip, who was actually doing really well at the end of the split. Fortix fucked off. He's out. You got him in. And if you don't know, Mako actually had some awesome games earlier this year. Mako and Way have been really good this year. Mate, I actually think, even though it's only for the summer split, get that asterisk right there. This is the dark horse. This is the team that could make the miracle run to Worlds, bro. I'm telling. I think it's possible. I know people are going to think I'm hyping them. I think it's possible. I also think people like the Shy and Rookie, if there's any player could walk back in the door and give you a decent split with above average points, it's these two. They've just done it their whole careers.
I'd make it to that list too, you know? It's like, you know, the biggest trait that we always praised them for was last year was, regardless of how ugly the game looked, one into game two, it didn't matter. And honestly, I forgot about that aspect because the game one that they played was very ugly against Weibo. It's like, oh shit, no, please, no. And then they just bounced back. It didn't matter. It was just like just dirt off the shoulder, and they got into it. We got like some nice rookie moments with the Rise. Like I'm excited again because it just seems to me like this team. It's like they are playing for all the right reasons, you know. I'm playing into the whole, you know, LPL drama angle, but it's like this is a team where they could choose not to play. Rookie could choose not to play.
Don't you think that the Shy and Rookie, they must actually love League of Legends, bro? I think they genuinely just want to play the game. They're the opposite to Humanoid in this case. Yeah, they just want to play the game.
They love the game. They love playing together. Because they had like Rookie and the Shy. There's many reasons why they shouldn't play, and they have the luxury where they can choose not to. I feel like this team is put together for all the right reasons, you know, like they're playing for all the right reasons because they really want to. And I think in a world where everything is so chaotic around them, I think that the potential floor of this team is going to be decently high, where when the dust settles of all the chaos, it's like we don't know how some of these teams are going to kind of land with some of the changes. Like, for example, Tobias, I'm not excited about Zhuo. You know, how are they going to figure that out, navigate that? There's a chance that they're going to be worse. Like they had a honeymoon period there in the beginning. How is it going to
Also, it was another rookie inter. I have a hit list of all the rookie inter. I hate you your whole career after that, bro. I hate you with the passions of hell, the fires of hell itself.
It's like, well, you know, and today Tobii Sports, they got smoked. Like they didn't look good at all. Tian looked very, very off. Tarzan like dog walked him. It's like there's opportunity. There's opportunity, and that's all IG needs. That's all IG needs. It's like there's 4 spots to qualify to Worlds. Easy peasy. I can definitely say there's a chance that IG definitely make it. And the beauty of it all is that they are playing in Nirvana. So they're going to be smoking noobs.
It's going to be
all
easy.
day long.
Yep.
They're going to be smoking noobs all day long. And we get to cope however much we want. Because there's nothing that can happen the next 6 weeks that can pull us out of that. You know, maybe they lose to some shit teams, could happen, but up until then, they're going to just face off against weaker teams, and then you have some of these teams that made it up to ascend where that they shouldn't belong. So it's like IG is gonna make playoffs no problem, and they're gonna come in there after winning so many series. They get to warm up to things, and just like Nongshim, they get to practice against the best teams, no problem. So book with us, we are great, and at the same time, you don't face off against us in up until 8 weeks or whatever the hell it is. So they are primed. They are primed. I'm ready to jump on the IG train. I'm ready to see them at the World Championship. Let us get in. How about T1? Don't do the thing where you get the 4th spot.
Yeah.
Get going through top 3 and let IG beat out like a little, a little D plus, a little KT. Let us get into the tournament. Let's see some more Rookie in the Shy and the actual main event. Give us some of that. Come on now.
Okay, that's our biased take of what we want to talk about, whether you care about it or not. But did you know, because Last Free Nation Premium is now live, you can subscribe. It costs $9 a month, but you can also subscribe for the whole year for $90. That's about $7.50 a month. As a 7-day money-back guarantee, by the way, if you want to try it out. And you can actually, on this particular show, if there are topics submitted, you can have your topic potentially selected. So it's our platform, your voice, and your take. So if you want to do so, you'll have your name read out. We're about to do one in a second now. Also, our company has no outside investment. It is all owned by the people who make the content and are part of our company. No one cuts a check and tells us what we can and can't say. We say what we want, just like you say what you want in your take. And actually, your subscriptions help us stay that way. You will also get things like ad-free versions of all the content on the podcast platforms, as well as the topic. If you submit questions, there's a special Discord for it. Go into the question section and put some of the insight. Then you can do questions, and at the end, we're going to do it for this episode. We will do a Q&A exclusive for subscribers that will be behind a paywall, not part of this video. That will be at the end of this video and going forwards. Also, we have elements like, what else is it? Let me think. Oh, yeah, that's it. When you sign up, it'll ask you what is your favorite show on Last Free Nation. If you pick Summoning Insight, then me and Yamato get an amount of the subscription. So you directly encourage your favorite show to continue and to have some skrill to spend when we're not just talking about League of Legends, watching League of Legends, dreaming about League of Legends, talking shit about League of Legends, tweeting about League of Legends. Sometimes we actually have social lives as well. So allow us to have a little bit of scratch to spend in that. Why don't you? We've earned it. So today's episode is today's topic is right on cue for something we discussed, believe it or not, coincidentally. Talon says, which player's career do you personally wish had made better roster changes? But listen, that isn't one of your pet favorites. It can't be Rookie, Mad, like, the obvious ones we always say is Rookie, isn't it? So is there someone like that you wish they'd made better roster changes, and what made that player so special to you? So essentially he says, like, it's someone where you wish they'd zigged when they zagged, if you know what I mean, and they could maybe have been a greater player if they were on the right roster. Is there a player, aside from the classic, like, is there someone you're thinking of like that, where you're just a big fan of this player, but they did the wrong moves in their career, or they could have been a greater player? Is there someone that's coming to mind when he says that?
No, it's like the first thing that comes to mind is not necessarily for the rosters they chose to play with, but rather the decision of contemplating if it's worth the risk. Because I think back, like the question brought me back instantly to the early era of League, where the decision to play pro and the decision to just commit into studies or committing into a job was a very, very difficult question, where the risk was very clear in terms of how it could impact your future. Maybe you, this was the time where, not finishing your high school diploma was considered like, damn, like you're crazy for even thinking about this. Obviously, with how everything went down, now we can look back and think to ourselves, as like, what were some players that, if they didn't make that decision, how would they actually, continue? And there's two players that come to mind, and maybe it's not tied to the question, but I'm thinking of it as a career decision, right? It's like which teams you decide to be a part of or not be a part of is a career decision. And the two names that come to mind is Extinct, because I think this was a player to me, just for those who don't know how good he was, because I got to play with him in a team for like a solid 2 months, and I was like, this is the best player I've ever played with. And I played with a long list of like great players at the time. And I thought this is just the best player in the world, like I no question. And he made the decision to just go into studies and not pursue anything. And then he, at some point, like when I was on a team with him, he was just convinced to be at the top laner of NIP because everyone knew how good he was. It's like, yo, we need a top laner. So we have Bjergsen mid. You just need to play top lane. And he came into the league, and after one split, was just the best top laner. He just smoked everybody. He was so much better than everybody. And then after that split, he just sailed off into the sunset. And then I remember like Rogue or Rockat or whatever they were called at the time, brought him in as a support back in like 2018, 19 or something. And I think that as a player, if he just kept playing, I think that he would be like a household name. He would have like a long career. He would be right next to Froggen and Alexish and Expect in terms of how legendary he was. And maybe he would even be capable of playing longer, you know, in terms of how he would represent Europe. And then the second guy that comes to mind is just Zoro Zero. Very similar thing. It's like Zoro Zero together with the NIP, they missed the deadline for an online qualifier. They missed the deadline for an online qualifier, didn't install TR, and that online qualifier was for LEC. And in that moment, they got this DQ from that qualifier, and Zoro Zero just said, all right, I'll just move on with life. And that was another one of those guys that just could have had a very, very strong career. I understand, you know, now we know how big League Esports turned out to be and how much of a future you could have had with it. And, you know, the years of 2014, 15, 16, how big the streamer numbers were and moving over to NA and have the big contract and, you know, and all that jazz. But at the moment, I just think of those players that decided to not pursue. Because I guess in some degree that's is a career decision. Not exactly the question he asked, but that came to mind. So I offered that.
Being as obviously people know all the famous ones, like there's only two I think it's even worth mentioning for me. Right, one is I actually do think Scout mismanaged his own career because even though like he won worlds with EDG in the LPL, right after that, I already remember thinking when he went to LNG, even though they ended up being good, like why has he got to that team? That's not a giant org. That was actually considered like a bit of a mid org before that. And I actually do think that year where he was the double MVP, they had a good team, but it's still he was hard carrying that one, bro. That's why he won the MVP both splits over people like Knight. So I always thought the real move he should have made is obvious to me. After EDG, when he was finished with that, he should have just come back to Korea back then when he was still really good. I always thought if he'd have gone back to Korea as a world champion from the LPL, he could have just walked into like a Hanwha Life type team and he could have had a super team built around him back when he would have had 2 or 3 years of being an excellent player. Because if people don't know, I always thought Scout was exactly the sort of mid laner people want, which is he's not the super Randy type that goes, he's more like a stable, just really good, always at minimum above average, usually like elite player. Like I always thought he actually has an excellent game. I even thought to myself, if this had ever happened, there should have even been a world where since he came from T1, maybe he would be the player that eventually replaced Faker and then Faker would become the coach and that would be a cool storyline. So I actually think he actually, after EDG, he didn't get that many, it was more individual accolades and then JDG was a waste of time. And Nongshim, we didn't even mention him, even though he plays from now, he's not even that good. So I think sadly he did squander a lot of his prime. He just wasted it being excellent on teams that weren't going to win worlds. So I think this guy's a guy who could have won many more championships and could have been, and obviously because he's Korean, but I think they would even love his style of play. Think about it. LNG used to be the macro team while they were in China because they had Tarzan and fucking Scout. Why weren't these players just playing for like Hanwha Life or fucking D plus or something? Like they would have been cracked out with all Koreans and Korean coaches. So the other one, this isn't really rosters, it's more how he behaved. I always did think one of my all-time biggest misses ever in the LCS was, bro, every person I've ever talked to who played with Dardoch tells me he was that guy. He was just some mega ganking jungler who used to just run scrims for even right at the end of his career, mate. He used to just be, if you put this guy in a no pressure game, just fucking dominate. It sounds like he is the NA self-made. But the problem is the amount of times this guy was on good teams and he just fucked it up himself, like the wrong personalities around him. I actually get the vibe. He almost needed like a coach that was like the father figure, you know, that would have like taken him under his wing and guided him a little bit. And he never had that. He actually had a lot of coaches that just gave up on him and kicked him and had direct conflicts with him and he had to be booted. Okay.
This guy needed custom auto, bro. He needed
he needed someone like that for real.
He needed to be hypnotized.
Yes. Okay, if you are just a normal fan of Some of the Insight, that's the end. We'll see you next week. If you are an LFN Premium subscriber, then in a few minutes we will do an exclusive Q&A that you will see behind the paywall. See you next week either way.